Chapter 241, Final Decisive Battle Part 2. Final Decisive Battle Part 2. Guy was the one who moved first. He casually moved to slash Velda like a frame-by-frame from a stop-motion animation. Damrata and Konda moved to stop it, but Feldera and Diablo also reacted. Kyu-fyu-fyu-fyu-fyu. Feldera-sama, I can deal with them alone if it's these people, though. Kahahahaha, what are you saying? No need to hold back, let me help you too. As if he was getting impatient, Feldera insisted to Diablo, who coolly smiled. For Feldera, his true intention was that he didn't want to be near his sister Vilgrind, whose complexion changed since she saw Rudra. Therefore, he had to have an opponent by all means. Then, Feldera-sama. That guy in military uniform was the man who bombarded me with bullets. I shall pay him back and be his opponent here. I see, in that case, I shall be the opponent of the other one. After the brief exchange of words, Feldera and Diablo moved simultaneously. Damrata and Diablo exchanged blows. With a saber one in his right hand and handgun in his left, Kondu attacked Feldera. The shock waves generated by their intense clashes shook the heaven. And then, the two pairs ascertained each other's prey and left the place. Looking at them with a sideways glance, Vilgrind started to ponder. Both Damrata and Kondu had served as Emperor Rudra's trusted retainers for a long time. Therefore, Vilgrind also knew the two of them very well, even their characters and abilities. They had unprecedented power with a human body and not the type of people who would be arrogant and careless. They were certainly a threat, as the two of them had obtained power far transcending awakened Demon Lord. However, Feldera, I won't have any mercy on you if you let your guard down, you know. So, Vilgrind called out to Feldera before changing her line of sight to Rudra. Although they certainly were powerful, their power hadn't reached the level of a true dragon yet. She believed that she didn't need to worry if Feldera fought one of them. However, if he fights horribly, I'll punish him. So, Vilgrind moved while thinking about things that would make Feldera shudder. At the moment when Guy tried to swing his sword down towards Velda, a sword of light came interrupting from the side and stopped the sword. It was the deed of the man who stood in front of Velda, Rudra. As they were, both of them shifted their position to cross their swords and swung it fluently. Both of them didn't carry a shield, as they were in a stance of complete attack. For them, their swords were their weapon and shield. Interesting. It seems your skills aren't getting duller, Guy. Skip your blabbering, a fake like you won't bother me. The two of them shouted and struck each other with full power blow. That blow had power enough to deliver a deadly blow. However, both of them skillfully parried it off and were unable to deal any injury on their opponent. Astonishingly, the fake Rudra had become an embodiment of perfect strength. The proof was that the fake Rudra had complete control of the temporary body, which condensed from a tremendous amount of energy. It was an unbelievable thing for Vilgrind, but the fake Rudra's strength rivaled Guy. Guy, I'll assist you. Idiot, don't come here. It happened in an instant. At the moment Vilgrind tried to slash the fake Rudra with her Godspeed Saber Claw 2 to assist Guy with her claws, which turned into swords. She felt a terrible pain in her arm. Impossible? I felt pain even though this body has pain nullification. Astonished, Vilgrind leaped back. My skill has gotten duller. I intended to chop off your neck though. No, I guess you have become stronger, right, Vilgrind? For the first time, Vilgrind stared at the fake Rudra. That young man ought to be an imitation of Rudra in his youth. Even Vilgrind's eyes couldn't distinguish the fake in front of her with the real one, as it had completely reproduced his strength down to his roughness. Impossible. I cared for you till the end, Rudra. You are a fake. Ha. Don't make me laugh, Vilgrind. I'm the one who decides that. I'm a fake because I have no soul? I'm a fake because I got revived? I'm a fake because I'm being controlled. All wrong. I become a fake when I admit I'm a fake and my will dies. I'm alive, you know? I'm thinking, choosing, and moving on. I'm me and nobody else. You know that, right, Vilgrind? Okay, I will admit that it's true I have died once. Therefore, I will start over from the beginning. I will beat you guys once so you guys will acknowledge my greatness. Then, I'll make you guys my companion. I'm the man who will eventually conquer the world. That is my promise with Stellar Lord Dragon, Veldanava, who is also my master after all. He laughed off to Vulgrind's shout. And then, Rudra erased his sword of light, the materialization of his aura, and smiled fearlessly. It will be rude for me to fight with such a toy, right? I will show you what I'm made of. Saying so, he held up both of his hands and muttered Divine Sword Summon 3. At that moment, the time-space between Rudra's hands cracked and a radiant sword manifested. Looking at that, Guy's red eyes kindled with joy and he smiled deeper. In shock and confusion, Vulgrind took a step back. Then, while showing a smile to Guy, Rudra held up his sword and said, "Let's settle our fight for sure today, Guy." Humph. That's just what I wanted, Rudra. 4. What is Divine Sword Summon? It's a ritual to bring out the sword he used against his opponent only when he got serious. For him to be able to summon the sword which chose its owner Divine Sword Star 5 regardless whether the man in front of his eyes is a fake or a real one, he probably has a similar will to Rudra, who was Guy's friend. Even after dying, you are still going to stand before me and get in my path, heh? You probably won't let me quit when I'm ahead. You truly are a guy who hated losing. 6. Guy was happy and couldn't hide the smile sprouting on his mouth. Guy already didn't care about Velda and other things and immersed himself in his fight with Rudra. And, Vulgrind too. She decided to watch over the two of them. The rule agreed upon between Guy and Rudra from a very long time ago didn't permit Vulgrind and Veltsard to interfere in their fight. While Vulgrind was watching, their fight grew fiercer. Veltsard also felt a similar shock like Vulgrind. However, she was Guy's partner, so it could be said the shock she felt was smaller than Vulgrind. More importantly, thanks to the bonds with Guy she felt earlier, she never got agitated when she saw Rudra. Veltsard was treating Milim's injury indifferently without showing astonishment on her face. She looked at Chloe, who before she noticed was confronting Velda and stalling with her sword play. Milim's injury was not as bad as she expected, so Veltsard was relieved that Milim would recover soon at this rate. "Sorry, I'm okay now." As Veltsard expected, Milim recovered immediately. Moreover, even though she was completely unable to compete with Velda just a while ago, Milim tried to rush towards Velda without learning any lessons from before. "Milim, is there any chance of winning?" "Huh? There's none. But well, I might hit on some kind of idea while fighting, right?" "Ah, it's not good," so Veltsard thought. Just as she expected, Milim was being toyed with by Velda. "Grr, you agile bastard." While Veltsard was watching, it seemed Milim was refining her fighting spirit steadily, even while she was cursing, but her energy didn't increase greatly as Veltsard imagined. Although it was larger than an awakened demon lord, it was only 10% compared to a true dragon. That's odd. Compared with the enormous energy she had when she fought Guy, I think Milim's current strength is too small though. Guy and Rudra were fighting equally. If Veltsard got in the way, she would obviously incur Guy's wrath, so she couldn't do anything but to leave them be. It seemed her younger brother, Feldera, had become very impudent and stubborn before she noticed, but she decided that it would be alright to ignore him. Moreover, because Guy and Rudra began immersing themselves in their fight, Vulgrind could afford to pay attention to Feldera and others. Even while watching the two fight, Vulgrind is preparing in case of an unforeseen situation. Looking at that, Veltsard judged that it would better to leave it to Vulgrind in case anything happened. The problem was Velda. As one would expect of Chloe, she was cautious and devoted herself to a wait-and-see approach. Carefully and calmly, she seemed to be measuring Velda's strength. On the other hand, Milim was reckless as she kept repeating her suicidal attacks. Veltsard was helping Milim with defense by putting up her shield to prevent the attacks towards Milim, but she would still accumulate some damage. Although Milim didn't look like she was holding back, she appeared weaker compared to when she fought Guy a long time ago. Veltsard doubted it. Milim, you fool. You better get serious." When Veltsard tried to say her doubt, Guy shouted as if he lost his temper. On the other hand, Milim rebutted seemingly unamused. "I am going full power. I didn't hold back, you know. Idiot. You were stronger a long time ago, you know. You aren't using Wrathful Lord Satan Ale, right? Ugh. Having been pointed out by Guy, Milim's sight went all over the place for an instant as if to express I forgot. However, if she were to elude the question, it would hurt her dignity. Bulletin butt. I might not be able to control myself with it. Last time, you and Ramaris. Geez. Just do it. Even I have my hands full with this guy as my opponent, you know? Just hurry up and send that damn bastard flying. Guy urged Milim with partly desperate tone. In fact, both Guy and Rudra's strength were nearly equal and Guy didn't have the leeway to talk with Milim. He could only tell Milim that much and turned towards Rudra. Sorry to keep you waiting. What, it's fine. It will be boring unless we fight seriously after all. Guy stated his thanks to Rudra who was holding back while Guy was advising Milim. Rudra magnanimously nodded. Then, they both struck their swords at the same time and scattered intense sparks. Veltsard sighed after she watched the two in amazement and felt her doubt was cleared. It wasn't that Milim hadn't gotten serious, she just didn't use her ultimate skill. However, Milim's words were also correct. A magic essence breeder reactor 7 that was so strong that Milim couldn't master it, that was Wrathful Lord Satanale's true identity. The ultimate power which increased her magic essences steadily by using her intense anger and magic essences as fuel. The magic essences used as fuel were used and restored 8 to become even more power. It was literally multiplied. As long as this was activated, Milim's energy 9 would increase immediately. Furthermore, it wouldn't decrease even if she kept using it, it was certainly the ultimate ability. The one who controls infinite power, that is the demon lord named Milim. Her title as the child of Veldanava was not just for show. However, Milim had never activated Wrathful Lord Satanale at all. It was only after Guy had succeeded in reproducing the ability when they fought long ago that Milim realized it. Although Guy had succeeded in reproducing Wrathful Lord Satanale with his prideful Lord Lucifer, he gave up in letting such an extremely powerful ability to stay active all the time. He could keep it permanently active at about 40% and using his remaining capacities to utilize other abilities. And, even if he activated the ability in full power while maintaining his ego, the limit would be about 90% from a self-analysis he had done. However, if it is Milim it's an unparalleled powerful ability, but if it's Milim she can control it, such as Guy's confidence in her. And, Veltsard too remembered the story she previously heard from Guy when she saw the current Milim. Milim didn't need to use ultimate skill because she possessed enormous energy surpassing awakened Demon Lord. If Milim could activate Wrathful Lord Satanale, Veltsard thought that she couldn't imagine how high her strength would rise. Perhaps, she might be able to embody a strength exceeding even us the true dragons. She came to realize the threat. However, she thought that it was necessary to defeat Velda in front of her. Besides, if it was Milim, she believed that Milim could control Wrathful Lord Satanale completely with her strong will. As for Milim, despite having intense conflicts, she understood that her current strength didn't reach Velda's. Therefore, she made the decision to pour her rage into Wrathful Lord Satanale. As if he sensed the sign from Milim. Rudra, there's no time to play around, hurry up and finish it. So, Velda shouted. However, the answer was, shut up, my opponent isn't so weak that I can win by going half-assed. You should understand that if you are my master. For you to say such foolish words, it seems you are not my master as I expected. However, I don't care. I'm grateful that you gave me the chance to settle my fight with Guy. So, be quiet. I will do my best to thank you for that. If you understand, then don't order me around. Rudra straightforwardly rebuked Velda. There was only the matter to settle his fight with Guy in Rudra's mind. He was now enjoying his fight with Guy from the bottom of his heart and felt that Velda's words were nothing more than a hindrance. Milim's voice echoed when Velda frowned due to Rudra's response. Sorry to keep you waiting. This time, I'll go all out for sure. Milim stood with bluish-white patterns that looked like dragon scales having emerged on her whole body. Enormous amount of aura gushed out from her body, which was neatly circulated and formed a defensive membrane to cope with every kind of attacks. The Dragon Princess 10 Milim Nava had now unleashed her true power. 1 Guntu, military sword. Refers to sword made to be used by Japanese Army and Navy after the end of Samurai era. Pick for references. 2 Shinsaku Kenso. Sword claws / nails / talons. 3 Shinken Shouken. Divine / god / deity sword. 4 Bring It On, can be used here too. 5 Ciu / Cio, Suda. Star / stellar ruler / king / lord / sovereign. 6 Make Jiren a Yara. Can also mean guy calling Rudra a sore loser. 7 Maso / Mamoto Shokuro. Magic essence propagation / breeder reactor / furnace / generator. A breeder reactor is a nuclear reactor that generates more fissile materials for sustaining fission reaction, than it consumes. In this case, Milim's skill is a reactor that consumes her anger and magic essences but turned into even more power / energy / magic essences. I'm not a nuclear physicist or any kind, orts. 8 Kanji used here is Kangen, which refer to reduction, chemical reaction, can also mean restoration. 9 A remainder, energy, and magic essence quantity / amount refer to the same thing. Misuryu, Energy. 10 Ryu Kaujo. Dragon Imperial Princess. Is like, Ujo, just the first one. Use the kanji for emperor. Do you guys want to add the imperial? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 242, Final Decisive Battle Part 3. Final Decisive Battle Part 3. A tremendous impact coursed through Velda's hand that stopped Milim's extremely fast sword. The strength behind the attack was beyond Velda's expectation and he failed to parry it. The proof of the power was that the snake sword used by Velda got destroyed. When he saw the broken sword in his hand, agitation was shown for the first time on Velda's expression. It then became anger. Geez, you're really going to bother me till the end. While annoyed, Velda threw surges of anger towards Milim. However, Milim calmly parried that anger. On the contrary, Milim began to pursue Velda, who wore an expression that said, "How unpleasant." Milim was unconcerned about whatever her opponent was thinking and continuously attacked Velda with strong intentions to crush him. Her speed increased intensely with every sword stroke and began catching up with Velda's movement. Velda was dodging Milim's slashes, but he gradually lost his calm. As one would expect, not even Velda could endure Milim's attacks unarmed. How vexing! Velda put his hands together and shouted, "Divine Sword Creation 1." The space between Velda's hands shown in a sword was created. Divine Sword Abyss 2. It ranked the lowest amongst divine swords and demonic swords, but it was still a full-fledged god-class weapon. Velda could create a god-class armament with his own ability. And then, the sword dance began. A disconnected space that would cut anything that came into contact with its circumference was formed due to Velda and Milim's sword fight. Milim had finally set foot into the same domain as Velda. Milim cornered Velda inside the deadly space just for the two of them without room for anyone to interfere, where they put all they got into their deadly sword that would break each other's barrier with one blow. While on the other hand, Velda he felt the signs of his plan collapsing while taking on Milim's pure will. He had lost the superiority in war potentials and had now been cornered. Although he couldn't kill Milim, whom is his capture target, Milim's greatly increased strength made it hard for Velda to go easy on her. It didn't mean Velda was out of options, but his pride hindered him from carrying them out. However, it seemed it wasn't the time to say that stuffs with how things turned out now. Even now, the pressure transmitted from the fierce sword exchanges was increasing even further. Just like piercing through the gaps of his focus, Milim's kick hit Velda's stomach. How troublesome! Velda changed his thoughts as if throwing them away. Milim was absolutely necessary for Velda's goal, thus he couldn't kill her. Having said that, there was a risk that Milim would eventually gain enough strength to match his if he kept fighting like this. Moreover, whether they were preparing for an unforeseen situation or not, the two true dragon sisters were glaring at the battlefield. Veltsard's support of Milim earlier was also annoying. His attacks to disempower them couldn't completely break through Veltsard and Milim's defenses. When he glanced to see the battlefield's current situation, Guy and Rudra were fighting on equal terms. Damrata and Khanda seemed to be overpowered, meaning that at this rate their defeat was only a matter of time. I guess it's time. The fight with all of the war potentials has been exhausted, the Great Heaven Monster War is over. As Kogurasaka Yuuki 3's last wish, Velda had completely carried out the Great Heaven Monster War. He was at a disadvantage in the game, but the result wasn't out yet. That's why Velda came to a decision. He would unleash all of his power and achieve his goal all at once. Diablo calmly took a stance and observed Damrata. Just with reproduced memories, Damrata could freely use the same techniques, arts, as when he was alive. It seemed his energy had greatly increased and his ultimate gift was reproduced as well. Even with simple calculations, it could be sensed that his energy was almost twice of Diablo's. Kyufu, wonderful. He's perfect as an opponent. Diablo was grateful for his good luck. He devoted himself to train every day to be of use to Rimuru, his master. Developing a new type of magic or training their combat techniques, arts, such things were what everyone was doing if they were Rimuru's subordinates. However, Diablo was different. He just accompanied Rimuru, whom developed new techniques with a flash of inspiration. However, that wasn't something that anyone could do. That was because the terrifying power of the new techniques could greatly affect someone even when holding back after all. Diablo was one of the few people who could participate in such experiments calmly. Then, while he was accompanying Rimuru in such recklessness, he realized that his magic theory 4 was more refined than before and his strength changed. Yes, someone's strength wasn't determined just by the magnitude of their energy. How it was used is more important. The most important thing is to eliminate wasteful usage and bring forth the greatest effect even when using a small amount of energy. It would be a different story if someone had magic power generator which could amplify magic essence endlessly like Milim, but thinking with an out-of-norm being like her as the base was wrong. That's why Damrata was a perfect opponent for Diablo. From Diablo's judgment, if he fought both Damrata and Kondu at the same time, his winning percentage was about a bit over 50%. He could risk his life and put everything he had to see the path to victory by any means. Unfortunately, he couldn't carry out Rimuru's order with that method. That would be pointless. However, such worries were also unnecessary as Diablo expected. Feldera and the others had arrived with perfect timing. As expected of Rimuru-sama, Diablo was satisfied and observed Damrata. He would be at a disadvantage if he fought both Damrata and Kondu, but if it was just Damrata alone, the story would turn out differently. Damrata's energy was nearly twice of his and his combat skills surpassed Ultima. However, there was no problem at all. Diablo is a demon, melee combat was no more than mere child's play for him. Magic is the basic combat technique for a demon which is a spiritual life form. Now that Diablo obtained an ultimate skill, his magic has shown further growth. Even the size of energy is no longer a problem. He could circulate his energy with the highest efficiency to control the consumption. He produced a fully harmonized effect. That could also be applied to melee combat techniques. Diablo parried Damrata's masterful attacks while supporting his own body by activating partial strengthening. He compensated for the big difference in energy by offsetting the power and technique behind Damrata's fists and kicks with his fists and kicks which were strengthened with magic. That was the completed magic melee combat technique 5 which combined magic and techniques. Testarossa and the others were speechless while looking at the combat techniques which were probably based on a new theory. Even the recovering Ultima was amazed and watched the fight between Damrata and Diablo with intense concentration. For this reason, Diablo decided to show what he could really do. I enjoyed this fight very much. You were perfect as a training partner, but let's end this soon. I shall show you what I can really do as my thanks for hurting Testarossa and the others. Diablo declared the end of the match and refined his magic power to the maximum with ultra-fast magic power excitation 6. Diablo's energy broke free of its maximum value immediately. He had drawn an equivalent amount of energy to his maximum energy out from Rimuru's nihility collapse. Besides that, he absorbed the surroundings particles and instantaneously reinforced his body. He reconstructed a strong body that could withstand handling a high amount of energy by taking in the matter from his surroundings. That was completed in a blink of an eye. Without any time lag, Diablo transformed into his combat form. And that was Diablo's ultimate form. While wearing a cool smile, Diablo dealt with Damrata's kicks. Unlike earlier, Diablo easily stopped Damrata's full-powered kicks with one hand. The reason was simple and clear. his energy had doubled and it became possible for him to bring out the same strength as Damrata. However, considering they fought each other evenly when Diablo was at half of his energy, it could be said that the outcome was already clear as day. As a human, you were a wonderful expert. If you still had your soul, it might become a more interesting fight. However, that's nothing more than a what-if situation. The result won't change. Diablo completely overpowered and crushed all of Damrata's attacks. Damrata just indifferently repeated his attacks without emotion. But, Diablo had read him thoroughly and lost interest in this fight. Let's end this now. Celestial End 7. An annular magic circle 8 completely covered Damrata's body surface. Without any words. Without any fear. Without any grief. Damrata just quietly became light particles and disappeared. Then, all of the particles were absorbed into Diablo through the annular magic circle. At the same time as Damrata disappeared, Diablo released his combat form. Although he used it composedly, the burden of magic power excitation wasn't low. Above all else, Diablo poured the collected energy flowing out from Damrata into temptation world he created. Although he intended to absorb the energy with different quality slowly, handling the energy of nihility collapse he borrowed from Rimuru at the same time was beyond the tolerable capacities even for Diablo. In contrast with End of World's main purpose of large-scale destruction, Celestial End's main purpose is to convert the target into energy and absorb it. If you considered the power, End of World was higher, but Celestial End was better as an anti-individual attack. Diablo, you. Testarossa called out Diablo. Kyofu, kyofu kyofu. As expected, I was too greedy to steal the energy. I'm not good enough. It seems I'm far behind Rimuru-sama. What was that technique just now? It looked like magic, but... That's right. It's the fusion of ultimate skill and magic in its evolutionary series. I learned it while cooperating with Rimuru-sama who had developed it for fun. Because it's still an incomplete technique, a stable usage is still difficult. That's not fair, it's just you who. Kyofu, that's the perks of it. Diablo bragged to the bitter Testarossa. After all, this new technique style was a magic theory created in joint development with Rimuru who Diablo admired. Although, to be precise, it was Seal not Rimuru, but that wasn't things Diablo was concerned with. Well, I shall teach you guys once this magic theory is completed. In the end, Testarossa and the other two's pursuit didn't end until Diablo promised so. Feldera was fighting against Kondu. Velda had said the energy was equivalent to 10 awakened demon lords, but the energy didn't actually reach that number. From Feldera's calculation, the power was no more than half of that. Moreover, the quality of his ultimate skill seemed to have degraded. As such, Kondu couldn't execute attacks as he imagined. He was also given an ultimate gift like Damrata, but that was no more than a mass-produced type of pseudo-ultimate skill. Its crude performance couldn't be compared with the ultimate skill created by Kondu's soul. This was the reason why Carrera, whose energy should be overwhelmingly smaller, succeeded in nullifying Kondu's bullets. TCH, this doesn't work either, huh? Kondu clicked his tongue while trying to shoot energy bullets. As the result of calmly analyzing the combat, Kondu understood that he couldn't win. If that were the case, he had no other choice but to fight with the full extent of his power in order to accomplish Velda's order. In contrast, Feldera still had strength to spare. Quahahea. You seem to have quite a wonderful personality, but in the end, you're just a temporary one. It's reasonable that you are unable to demonstrate your original strength with an imitation ultimate gift rather than the ultimate skill born from your soul. Feldera told Kondu while laughing. Kondu's strength was genuine, but his current body was a temporary one. Not to mention, he wasn't worth considering as he had no soul. That's why Feldera did various things such as observation, gathering information, and so on. Kondu was a soulless doll given a temporary ego. Even so, he inherited his original self's advanced combat techniques, arts, and used his ultimate skill even though it was a degraded version of it. Although the concept was different to the pseudo-core Rimuru made, it was a very interesting mechanism. Fufu, if I were to analyze this mechanism and teach it to Rimuru, he will certainly be grateful to me. As Ramirez Shishao, it will be fun to research it together. I'd like to have at least one sample, well. As were his thoughts as he ignored the fight. So, when Diablo easily ended Damrata, Feldera kept fighting Kondo without killing him. That Diablo, it seems he has ended it quickly. Then, if I don't end this too, the fact that I'm loafing around will get exposed. 9. Feldera lightheartedly thought so, but that judgment was a bit too late. I see. Then, as expected, there's only one way I shall take. Kondo decided without hesitation and executed it. Feldera was powerful, and he had realized that he couldn't win even before fighting. For him to be able to deal a blow to Feldera's main body before him while he was still alive was the result of multiple strokes of good luck. That's why Kondo faithfully carried out the order. Overdrive 10. In other words, it was a self-destruction. Velda confirmed that Kondo entered self-destruct mode and muttered that will do. He looked around and smirked. What's so funny? Milim's sword approached Velda, but it was easily parried by Velda's divine sword Abyss. Velda's skill had reached a terrifying level to the extent that he could fight several people even with the inferior snake sword. Now that the superiority in weapons was gone, Milim couldn't reach Velda even though her strength had increased. And, Chloe was also unable to demonstrate her true strength. There was one reason. It was because she felt an uncomfortable feeling with Velda's abilities. Chloe always acted carefully. She wouldn't take action like fighting with all her strength so that she could respond in any way depending on the situation. Her basic style was to fight while using Future Foresight 11 of Ultimate Skill Time Space God Yog-Sothoth. However, Chloe was unable to recall future memories right now. That meant that even if something were to happen, she couldn't escape to the past. Is there a barrier that impedes certain abilities in the heaven? Or, is it Velda's inherent skill? She verified that the other abilities could be activated without any problem and presumed that it was probably a skill that interfered with movement between space-time. In other words, it meant that she couldn't escape from this space with transfer. Perhaps the only way to get in and out was by passing through the gate. The angels who were spiritual life form might have been able to return directly after registering the heaven as their base. However, the intruders couldn't escape. I wonder, is this some kind of trap to make us unable to escape? When Chloe thought so, Velda opened his mouth as if answering that. Ha 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 ha. As expected of the pinnacle beings of this world. For you guys to oppose me this far. Alright, I suppose I have to show you what I can really do soon. However, Kondo turned into light particles and became a small round orb. The light particles were converging towards the center and suddenly reversed. A small sun appeared in the heaven due to the rampage of super high dense energy accompanied with intense lights. Feldera fully released his magic power to suppress the sun and barely maintained its state just before it exploded. However, Feldera's complexion worsened as he suppressed the sun and felt the pressure increasing steadily. However, I shall be the opponent for those who survive this explosion. Saying so, Velda embraced Milim forcibly. MNNN, what are you trying to do? Milim struggled while shouting, but the jet black chains that came out from Velda's left hand twined around and sealed her movement. Dark Nebula 12, the chains made with dark matter that absorbs all energy. Even this explosion, even Milim's raging power, was not enough to destroy these chains. It was God's chains that was more powerful than Gleipnir, which succeeded in sealing Dagruel in the past. With these chains, Milim and Velda would be completely protected from the explosion. However, the other people would be exposed to a direct hit from the explosion. A raging explosion of energy equivalent to 10 awakened demon lords would spread a transcendental destruction which surpassed true dragons even though just for a moment. Since it was destruction by sheer force, energy greater than it was needed in order to defend against it. You fool! If only you ended it immediately. Veldsard angrily moved. Before the power suppressed by Velda was unleashed, she intended to cooperate to put it out. The other people also tried to move at the same time, but... Don't misunderstand my words, okay? The explosion I mentioned is the one I'll start up over here. Rudra, I wonder why you could defy me, but that doesn't matter anymore. I wanted to investigate the cause, but you have your work anyway. Saying so, Velda looked at Rudra while sprouting a wicked smile. It can't be, you bastard. Guy shouted. He ignored Rudra and tried to go towards Velda, but he was too late. Goodbye, Rudra. Starbreaker 13, activate. At that moment, everyone was still as if time had stopped. Even the explosion from Kondu's self-destruction was expected to be strong enough to inflict a massive damage even to true dragons. If supposedly energy of a true dragon class was to break through its limits and explode, it was predicted to produce a tremendous destruction beyond imagination. Moreover, the skill and magic of transfer series were sealed off in this heaven. There was no escape. Guy, Vilgrind, and Chloe, the three of them surrounded Rudra simultaneously. Veldsard, who was heading towards Feldera, also turned towards Velda after seeing the demons moving to support Feldera. And the four people desperately began to offset the energy, but the process leading to the explosion was faster. Rudra. Damn it, things turned out like this. I guess it can't be helped, Guy. It seems I can't settle my score with you. Rudra helplessly laughed. And then he muttered quietly, please survive. Immediately after, Rudra was engulfed in intense lights. Feldera, I leave that one to you. Don't fail, okay? Quaya ha 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 ha. Of course. If I fail here, I will be killed by my sisters. While Feldera's carefree laughter echoed, a girl appeared among the four people who surrounded Rudra. Sensei. When Chloe opened her eyes wide in surprise, the energy that should have exploded was subsided into a small round orb on the girl's palm. And then the girl broadly grinned and smiled. Yo, sorry to keep you guys waiting. 14. So, she boldly declared. 1 Shinkansuzu. 2. Shinen, Abaisu. Both mean the same thing. 3. Suzushu, Yuuki Kagurazaka. Written as creator, read as Yuuki Kagurazaka. I prefer Japanese order name BTWXD. 4 Maharayan. You could say his understanding of magic. 5 Mahakakuta Jutsu. Magic hand-to-hand combat technique. 6 Chokusoku Marioka Reiki. 7. Seiden Enkan Meppa, Surezushiaru Endo. Celestial Ring of Supreme Annihilation. 8 Enkan Mahajin. A ring-shaped magic circle/formation. 9 Ed Note, Feldera's new nickname, the Tsundere King of Screw UPS. Guro, Tsundere still the best. 10. Jacobu Subakaha, Obadorebu. Self-Rampage Supreme Explosion. 11 Mirai Yakai. Future Prediction/Premonition. 12. Anko Kasiayun Shiba, Daku Nebira. Dark Nebula Shackles. 13. Seiko Bakaha, Sutta Burika. Starlight Supreme Explosion. 14 Ed Note, Feldera could learn a thing or two from Rimuru's timing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 243, Final Decisive Battle Part 4. Final Decisive Battle Part 4. I ate the mass of energy in my hand with soul consumption 1, then stealthily poured and isolated it into my imaginary space. It seemed that I had appeared as if I were aiming for the right timing, but obviously, I didn't. It was a coincidence. Even though it might not appear so, I was actually busy with various things. Since things inside the labyrinth had settled down, I thought that I would also be going to subjugate Velda, but for some reason, my energy wasn't recovering. No, I felt that my energy had decreased rather than increase after the recovery. I thought it would be risky to challenge Velda like that, so I decided to recover my energy first. As there were a large number of angels in the sky, I decided to kill and eat them. It could be said that Kumara had great timing as she returned with transfer just at the right moment, and so we commenced a simultaneous attack. As the labyrinth army was superior, we were overwhelming in the fight. Firstly, the subordinates of Kumara's pets attacked all at once from the surroundings. As a result, the angel army, which was aiming at the labyrinth's entrance, fell into disorder and a big gap was made. The labyrinth army sorted as if not to miss the timing. After that it became a one-sided fight. It seemed that it was difficult for the angels, who all united under one will and turned into a powerful converging fort to deal with attacks from all directions. The commander seemed to be quite capable, as the angels were shown to be able to denominate into core and switch to intercepting incoming attacks, but the stumble at the beginning was fatal. However, there is a problem before that: the differences in an individual's fighting power was too large. If I might say so myself, everyone from the Labyrinth army was strong. Among them, Kumara, the 4 Dragon Kings, Apito, Trainee-san, and her sisters were extraordinary. Kumara rampaged as if to relieve her stress. She tore and cut the angels freely with slashing attacks using her tails, with the 8 pets spread out to defend her. There was no such thing as letting the enemies live. From what I saw, the Dragon Kings were in high spirit. They used powerful breath and grand magic in their dragon form. Not only with her individual's fighting strength, but Apito also commanded her subordinates like her limbs and annihilated the enemies. There was no other word except brilliant. They trampled over the enemy with the momentum of one sting one kill through their perfect coordination. Fused with various spirits, the Dryad sisters were strengthened to former Demon Lord level. And, the worst case was Trainee-san, which had energy comparable to an awakened Demon Lord. It seemed that Trainee-san had fused with a Spirit King. She fired extreme magic with tremendous power in a rapid succession. Just like that, in a short period of time, the outcome was clear to anyone. I was also worried at first, but halfway through the fight, I watched while enjoying a cup of black tea too. Well, after all, no matter how you looked at it, our side's fighting power was too excessive, any losing factors couldn't be found. As expected of the high-ranking war potentials stationed on the 70th floor and below inside the labyrinth. Because they usually couldn't play an active role, their rampaging appearances when given the opportunity to do so was incredible. While looking at their appearances, I absent-mindedly ended up thinking that it might be impossible to capture the labyrinth even with an army of a large country's size, but I will keep that was a secret. Besides of their achievements of repelling the Empire army, naturally, everyone had become stronger from that time, but once things calmed down, it would be better for me to discuss the adjustment of the labyrinth difficulty. No matter how you thought about it, it was very unlikely for humans to be able to capture it. About the battle, when our victory was certain and only the enemy general was left. Ah, my san. So Shinji, who had become Ramorous' subordinate, muttered. It seemed the enemy's commander was an acquaintance of his. I heard stories not just from Shinji but also from Mark and Jen. The name of the enemy's commander was Furakimai. She obviously had the energy of an awakened Demon Lord class and ruled over the angels. However, she was originally a bit stronger than the 3 of them. Was she really just a bit stronger? So I strongly asked them. A bit, no, quite. Well, I have never won against her, but she was absurdly strong. Mai's ability was the unique skill Traveler 3. It's an absurdly strong cheat ability that allows her to use teleportation to places she had visited once. The combination of her skill and her long-range weapon was ruthless. So, the 3 of them answered evasively. It seemed that the trio had never won even when together. From Shinji's last explanation, it was very unlikely for normal people to win against that skill. After all, even for me to do teleportation without time lag was impossible unless I combined several abilities. It was natural that the trio couldn't win. She was an ordinary quiet girl and a high school student in Japan. As one of Yuuki's henchmen, she had adored Yuuki before he became Velda. She was very serious. Also, she seemed to believe in Yuuki's words that he will finalize the repatriation technique 5. I was told that she seemed to be worried about her younger brother that she had left on the other side and is constantly researching for a technique to cross between worlds. She was like that, but her unique skill Traveler was restricted to this world and it seemed that she was unable to go to the other world. However, if she combined her unique skill Traveler and Yuuki's Summoner, it seemed that crossing to another world wouldn't be just a dream. She believed that and cooperated with Yuuki for all this time. Once I understood that, Shinji opened his mouth as if to say something but then closed it. Apparently, he had something he wanted to say. So I thought and called him out. What? Is there something you want to say? Ah, well. You see. Was it something really hard for him to say? He stopped speaking halfway through. Hey, that's impossible as expected. I also think that's not good. The other 2 stopped Shinji. I didn't know what he wanted to say, but I gradually became curious about it. Ah, I'm sorry. Please forget about it. Oh, geez. Can't you just say it? Because Shinji was hesitating to say it and tried to swallow his words, I decided to forcibly get him to talk. Then, what he wanted to say was simple. It was, please, I want you to save Furakimai. It seemed they were on good terms among other worlders because they came from the same country. Sorry, it's just my selfishness. I do understand that I'm asking for the impossible with it, but... Shinji remorsefully apologized. Well, I was the one who asked him though. Wait a moment, Shinji. Even Rimuru can't do anything about it. It will incite antipathy from everyone and he will not able to keep his dignity as a demon lord. When her subordinate started to say something outrageous, Ramirez came panicking to mediate the matter. Well, I wonder. I thought it wasn't something to be flustered about to that extent. After all, I was quite selfish myself. But, we already knew that, right? Ha ha ha, Ramirez-sama. Our loyalty will not waver by such a thing. That's right. In the first place, if we cared about such a thing, we would have massacred every hostile. However, that's not the case, right? That lazy demon lord over there was an enemy we fought until just a little while ago. Benimaru broad-mindedly denied Ramirez's concern and Shana affirmed Benimaru's words while looking down at Dino with eyes as if she was looking at trash. Ed note, Shana is scary. It seemed even Dino felt uncomfortable with that gaze, so he stopped lying down on the sofa and seated himself on a chair. And then, he nonchalantly nodded. Oh well, Rimuru wouldn't mind about such a thing. So, he tried to settle it with good vibes but got his head whacked with a tray by Shana. It kind of felt like, you're not someone who can say that, so he reaped what he sowed. So, what will you do, Rimuru-sama? Should I order them not to deal the final blow for the time being? Benimaru asked me. Shinji and his group looked with hopeful eyes at me. There might be no need to discuss it since things had reached this point. If they were my companions, then they would know my answer even if I didn't say it. Rest assured, Shinji. If she swears not to be hostile towards me, I will save her. Really? Yes. However, it's only if she's not hostile, okay? If so, then no problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I accepted the request, not only Shinji, but Mark and Jen also said their gratitude. I wished that they would have said it after I saved my as expected of Rimuru. That's the spirit. Ramirez smacked my back while smiling from ear to ear. What a cheeky fellow. So I made a promise without due consideration as usual and went outside of the labyrinth to stop my... Well, now. I left the rest of the things to Benimaru and flew towards the sky. I ordered Diablo, who was accompanying me, to go ahead. Kyufu, leave it to me. I shall buy time until Rimuru-sama arrives. Yeah, I leave it to you. It seems that the Heaven Gate has been destroyed, but as expected those three wouldn't be able to defeat Velda after all. Looks like it, this presence is indeed frightening. I will have to hurry a little. Saying so, Diablo transferred and went ahead. If it was the current Diablo, he would be able to buy some time until I arrived. I was a bit worried, but I decided to leave it to him. Either way, it was necessary to buy some more time. Since my energy was still recovering, I had to absorb a large amount of energy from the defeated angels. I thought that it would fine if I were to persuade Mai while absorbing the energy. However, that thinking was naive. When I held up my hand and tried to absorb the energy with soul consumption, the energy quickly transferred and disappeared. It seemed that the angels were set to return automatically to heaven when they got defeated. Because it can't be helped, I gave up on eating the angels and went towards Mai's position. Mai was actually strong. Even though they were fighting as not to kill her as Benimaru instructed, it seemed that no one could touch her. Trainee-san didn't participate in the fight, but the Dragon Kings couldn't be her opponents. That alone was incredible, but it was a surprise that even Apito was being toyed with by Mai. As expected from someone who had mastered teleportation. Incredible. Without losing her spirit even though the angels were annihilated, Mai calmly continued fighting. She probably had an indomitable spirit. I could understand why Shinji and the others fell in love with her. Although normally someone would fall into despair in a situation like that, she was still fighting while believing she could win. Judging from what I saw so far, teleportation was really troublesome. Even though Apito was superior in terms of speed, Mai dodged all of Apito's attacks. I guess there was no chance of victory for Apito here. However, Kumara would definitely win against Mai. But, this time I would be her opponent. If it was Kumara, she would win, but she would definitely end up killing Mai. It has been a while, Rimuru-sama. Kumara, who noticed me, came flying and behaved like a spoiled child. She's cute, but currently it wasn't the time for it. Kumara, go deal with the remnants of the angels. Understood. Kumara obediently obeyed my order. It seemed that she was able to relieve some stress with a bit of rampaging around. Apito, who was fighting against Mai, also noticed my presence and stopped her fight to yield the fight to me. My strength was still not enough. I wanted to neutralize her without troubling Rimuru-sama, but Apito frustratingly bowed. Don't worry about it. Even if you assess things just from an energy standpoint, your opponent has more than twice of yours. If you think of it that way, you're incredible, you know. I said so and comforted her. Apito also joined Kumara, both of them left to deal with the remnants of the angels. All that's left was for me to persuade Mai. I and Mai faced each other. Mai readied her bow and glared at me while breathing heavily. I see, she was a beautiful girl. Her aura was like Shana's. She had a beautiful black hair like a Japanese doll, and sharp facial expression. She retained her dignified appearance and posture even though fatigue should have accumulated. Her posture was of a lovely, beautiful girl. However, there were some points to be worried about. The veins on her limbs were bulging and torn apart here and there, making her bleed. Blood? It seems that she incarnated as an angel with a still living body. She probably fused with a seraph without reconstructing her body. It seems her body has begun to collapse as it can't withstand the energy. Seal answered my question. There was a limit for a human's living flesh to accept the tremendous amount of energy of a spiritual life form such as demon and angel. Not to mention, if it was with the highest ranking angel, seraphim, they couldn't endure it unless it was with an awakened and carefully trained body of God-man class 7. If this girl named Furaki Mai was able to control the seraphim's power while still in a living flesh, I couldn't help but to say that she has a tremendous willpower. Nice to meet you, I am Rimuru. I see, it's you. My name is Furaki Mai. I don't have any grudge against you, but I will have you die for Yuuki-kun. Yuuki is already gone, you know? He's not Yuuki now, he should be calling himself as Velda, though. Although her expression moved just for an instant to my question, Mai immediately regained her calmness. It doesn't matter, because I believe in Yuuki-kun. If I defeat you, I can do my research in peace. I have to go back home no matter what it takes. I know that this is for my own egoism, but still, I have to defeat you. Saying so, Mai aimed her bow towards me without hesitation. She should have realized the collapse of her limbs, but Mai stared at me without breaking her concentration even once. She should have understood that she couldn't win, but panic couldn't be seen in her eyes. Remarkable, so I honestly thought. Mai was quite philosophical for her age. For one purpose, she threw away all of her hesitations. Perhaps, she just runs through the path she believes is her only option. Although I've heard about it once, why do you want to go back? Why, you ask? You ask something strange. Do you think I'm not worried about my family I left behind? Do you think we have to obediently obey orders even though we were summoned to this world without our permission? We're not treated as a human being and only are seen as a weapon. It won't hurt my heart even if such a world was destroyed. I want to return home, that's all. The other Wolders quickly abandoned their homesickness, but Mai kept on holding onto it all this time without giving up. If you think about it, that might be reasonable. I gave up on it because I died, but that wasn't the case for the summoned people. Shinji and his group seemed to have given up easily, but that didn't mean they had no regrets. If they could go back, they wanted to go back. There's probably a lot of people like that. However, such magic didn't exist and there was no precedent of it too. Because every one of them could easily understand such reality, they just promptly gave up. Mai didn't give up because of her strong willpower, and she never lost hope because of her skill. Therefore, I had no other choice but to inform her of the cruel truth. That's impossible for now. Even if someone can come from the other side to this side, a way to go from this side to the other side has not been found yet. I know that. While that may be true, I can't give up. Besides, Yuuki-kun will surely find a way to go back. Therefore, I will not give up. Mai shouted and fired an arrow. However, it was futile. I erased the arrow and continued talking. Like I said, Yuuki is gone, you know. Velda and Yuuki are different people. Besides, I think the one who summoned you is probably Yuuki too. Mai's movement stopped when she heard my words. And then, she shook her as if she didn't want to accept that. Shut up. I'll have to stop you from confusing me. Stardust Rain 8. She flew up to the corner of my sight and fired her strongest technique while glaring at me. However, it was futile. Because any emission-type techniques wouldn't work on me after all. I sucked all of the arrows into imaginary space. Thus, that was the curtain call. It can't be. Mai dropped her bow in despair. At last, she noticed the overwhelming difference in strength between herself and me. Listen, I don't have any intention to kill you. Why, is that? I was asked by Shinji and the others to save you. If they didn't, I wouldn't have bothered to go out because it's cumbersome. Could it be? They were alive, Shinji-kun, and the others. It seemed Mai received quite a shock when she heard my words. Well actually, if I could show the difference in strength like this, she could understand that my words weren't a lie. There was no need for me to come out, as it was true that Kimura was stronger than Mai. Besides, certainly that it's impossible to cross over between the worlds. But, you see, that's just for the time being. In the future, depending on the research, it might be possible to find a passage to another world, don't you think? Souls are circulating back and forth, aren't they, such as my partner, Seal's reasoning. I think the possibility isn't zero, you know. Is that true? At least it will be more reliable than leaving it to Yuuki. You can research it yourself, after all. When I stated so, Mai stared at me with eyes full of surprise. Did she also receive a shock because I told her that she should do the research herself instead of leaving it to others? Even so, I can't go back anymore. I accepted this power, I ended up accepting it. I believed in the small possibility that I can warp with the tremendous amount of energy. The result was a failure. My body is starting to collapse as it can't endure the angel's power. The only way left is to believe in Yuuki-kun. She noticed it, didn't she? Evolving Traveler with the Seraphim's power she got and did a dimensional warp. That was probably Mai's aim. However, she failed to acquire the ability to warp between dimensions and was left with the only way, which was to believe in Yuuki. Thus, she was someone who got deceived by Yuuki from the start. That means. Let me ask this just in case, did Yuuki say something like you may be able to go back, I think? There's a possibility that your skill will evolve by fusing with an angel. However, the power is too strong and it might hurt you, so I don't recommend it, but what will you do to you? Also, don't tell me that you are fighting right now to return the favor to Yuuki. So, I said what I thought directly. Mai's reaction was dramatic. She opened her eyes wide and just stared at me without saying anything. It seemed I hit the bullseye, as that was probably similar to what Yuuki told her. Hey. As I expected. That's a swindler's modus operandi, you know. Offering an incredible offer and made the other party compliant to them, that was exactly an old trick used by a swindler. 9. There was a catch behind the tempting offer, and they wouldn't encourage people to take the offer. It looked like they were giving options to the other party, but the other party actually only had one option to take. It was truly a shrewd trick. Now that you mention it. Well, I think those who got deceived are at fault. From now on, you'd better not just relying on someone but also properly try to confirm things with your own thinking. I unintentionally ended up reprimanding Mai. It had no persuasive power at all, since that came from me, who always leaves things to other people, but Mai didn't know me well, so she took my advice to heart. Mai courageously held back her tears and frustratingly bit her lip. I understand what you're saying. There seems to be no point for me to be hostile to you. Either way, there is no chance for me to win. You could say it is my last selfishness, but may I ask you to deal the final blow and put me at ease? Mai told me so and smiled fleetingly. She probably lost the willpower to live as she had lost her hope. Like I said, search for the way to go back yourself. It's too early to give up, don't you think? But, I can't hold much longer. My body's collapses. Ah, I forgot. I said that and embraced Mai's body. And then, I thoroughly ate the seraphim that had fused with Mai's body with soul consumption. Seraphim had already been analyzed, so the work was completed instantly. Unfortunately, I didn't recover as much energy as I imagined, but I deemed things acceptable as I got to analyze Traveler without Mai's permission. Something like an unrestricted teleportation was an excellent super rare skill among unique skills. Even without my instruction, Seal Sensei the Skill Mania 10 won't be silent. How's the analysis? Completed successfully, acquired teleportation from Traveler. As expected of Seal Sensei. Mai also noticed that I had eaten the angel. She lost the ability to fly and naturally held onto my arms. What happened? As such, Mai got flustered and her face turned red. Apito. Present. I called Apito and handed over Mai who was in my embrace to her. I don't think that the collapse of your body can be healed with potions, but if it's Shinji, he could heal it. You should ask him to get it healed. Mai was surprised and repeatedly opened and closed her mouth, but she looked at me as if she changed her mind. Moreover, for some reason, she had an expression that showed disappointment and unsatisfied. But, she was determined on something. Thank you very much. I will never forget this favor for as long as I live, and surely, I will find a way to go back. She declared that to me with a strong determination. That would do. As long as she had a goal in life, she would be free from despair. I thought that it would be better for her to live straightforwardly towards her goal rather than having a grudge towards Yuuki. I nodded back to Mai and sprouted a small smile. What is with her gullible personality that believes me so easily like this? That was what I was worried about inside my mind, but some things are better left unsaid. Take her away. As you wish, my lord. Thus, I gave the order to Apito. Apito respectfully bowed towards me and left to take Mai away. Thus, the angel army that invaded the surface world was exterminated completely and our total victory was settled. 1 Tama Shii Buzhoku. Buzhoku, lit. Violent eating, can mean gluttony, engorge, voracity. Cause I didn't think I left a footnote for it before. 2 Ed, tip in war, enjoy black tea wherever, whenever. 3. Ryokasha, Torebara. Same meaning in kanji and katakana. 4 Reminder to self Shunkanidu, instantaneous movement/transfer, teleportation is advanced version of Tenai, transfer. No time lag at all, while normal transfer has some time lag. 5 Sukenjutsu. Return home technique/arts/spell/magic/way/method. 6 Like this. 7 Shinjin Q. 8. Hashikuzu no Ryosei Sudadashuto rain. Stardust meteor shower/rain. 9 https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/confidence_trick. Tensu Chiromania. XD. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 244, Final Decisive Battle Part 5. Final Decisive Battle Part 5. So, I worked hard like that. I hope that all of you would understand that I was never slacking off. Velda was surprised by my appearance. That was understandable. After all, I appeared with teleportation that I just got a while ago. At the same time I acquired it, Seal incorporated it into Void God Azathoth. It seemed Mai could only go to places she had been to before, but that was her limit as a human. That couldn't be helped since a human's ability to grasp space heavily relied on their eyesight. However, I could grasp a huge amount of spatial information, including with observation magic. That meant that I could teleport to places that I could recognize. I could learn about the situation through Diablo and Feldera-san's eyes now. That was the reason I could easily come to this place. I looked at Velda, who was wary of my arrival, and showed him a fearless smile. It was to provoke him. With that, it would increase Velda's wariness towards me. In that opportunity, I prepared myself in order to bring down Velda. Before Velda rushed into action, I absorbed the energy I had suppressed. I was fortunate that my energy recovery couldn't catch up and steadily absorbed it into my imaginary space. In there, Seal-san diligently converted it into energy I could use. Thanks to that, I greatly recovered from my low energy state, and it seemed to be enough to fight Velda. I guess you would never know what could turn out to be a fortunate situation. By the way, I found out the reason why my energy didn't recover when I came to this place. The culprit was probably Feldera-san. I think he created clones and rampaged around. It seemed he could replenish his energy through the soul corridor from me, no mistake about that. I thought so, but when I confirmed that with Seal while being amazed, I heard a surprising answer. That's right. In addition, a bit of it is also flowing into Diablo and Benimaru. More energy was used than expected for Vulgrind's skill evolution. She replied in a carefree way like, and so, what about it? Because she said it too smoothly, I was stuck on how to reply to that. No, she used my energy without my permission though. However, even if I wanted to complain, it was true that I was helped by the low energy state due to her doing. There was a heap of stuff that I wanted to say, but I gave up complaining. Or rather, perchance. Even this situation was within Seal-san's expectations? No, there's no way. I might indeed just be overthinking it. It couldn't be, right? There was no way she could predict things that far and predicted what kind of plan Velda would take either. I have confirmed the phenomenon of energy returning to Heaven 1 when the angels were defeated in various places. Yeah. I knew that. I have predicted that the most efficient way to use the energy of the angel gathered in the heaven is to make all of the energy go berserk. Therefore, as the countermeasure for it, I have persisted your state of energy exhaustion. Well, you said it so easily, but wouldn't that be a big problem if you misread things? Moreover, Velda might absorb all of the energy and superpowered up to himself. I couldn't possibly fight Velda in an out-of-gas state like that. What were you going to do if the energy didn't recover smoothly? He can't do such things as super power up. He wouldn't be struggling if he could power up himself that easily. Well, even if he were to super power up himself temporarily, there would be no problem. I don't think that my master would lose in low energy state, but just in case, it was possible to forcibly retrieve Feldera and Vulgrind back to recover about 60% of the energy instantly. So, there's no problem. Ah, I see. She declared that super strengthening was impossible, but what about me? Am I an exception? I felt Seal-san had overestimated me too much. Seal-san is the, if she says she'll do it, type. So, she generously distributed the energy at a fast pace. Since Feldera-san and Vulgrind were also recovering their own energy, certainly, it would be the best idea to have them cooperate with me in the worst-case situation. Whether I would get their approval or not would become the problem, but I felt relieved to know that such way was available. I felt I got to see a glimpse of Seal-san's scary side, but my doubt was cleared. What's left was only to defeat Velda. Also, before that, I examined the orb remaining in my left hand. When I finished absorbing all of the energy, it seemed only the core remained. It resembled the pseudo-core I made, but the concept seemed to be quite different. What's this? Yo. I thought it was the end, but I didn't think that I will survive in this form, you know? Although I can't really say that I'm alive. Ha 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 ha. It talked? I stared at the orb in surprise. Even though it had no vocal cords, it seemed to produce sounds by vibrating the magic essences. It was a very skilled orb. Rudra. You are safe. It doesn't seem so, but you were safe. Although Vulgrind found herself stuck for words, she still asked the orb. This orb, is Rudra? I felt his character was completely different from the Rudra I knew though. Ha. Well, being tenacious is my forte after all. No, no. Even if you called yourself as tenacious, your status as an orb was hard to be said as alive. At the moment I tried to do a carefree tsukamai like that. Velda instantly closed the distance and came to slash me. However, I didn't let my guard down even while talking. I kicked up the sword stuck in the ground, wielded it in my right hand, and I stopped Velda's sword with it. Naive. I don't underestimate you that much that I will let my guard down in this final stage, you know. I didn't want to compliment him, but it can't be helped as it was true. Velda was indubitably the strongest person as far as I knew. Judging from a brief look just now, his power was rising tremendously. I felt Guy's almightiness and Milim's strength, and the energy of true dragon level. I also thought whether to attack him in the gap while he was wary of me, but stopping was the right decision. As expected, this guy wouldn't let his guard down, so I had to deal with him carefully. Besides, I had just one concern. Since there was such a concern, I couldn't possibly do something such as letting my guard down. I exchanged several blows with Velda and took some distance from him. That just now wasn't even a warm-up, it was just a playful greeting. In the first place, I couldn't get used to fighting using a sword that wasn't mine as I expected. Or rather, this sword was an excellent weapon and obviously of God class too. From pure performance, this sword was better than my katana. Even so, I wouldn't cheat because the katana I was familiar with was easier to be used. Ha ha ha, you're not bad. You're able to handle my sword. However, you still have lots more to work on. Unfortunately, you don't seem to be my true vessel. The orb in my left hand proudly said such an evaluation. Or rather, what are you? Because of you, I was fighting Velda with just my right hand. Since the basic is to wield the sword with both hands, I was unfamiliar with fighting only using my right hand. What are you supposed to be? The Rudra I know was full of himself because he was an emperor, but you're above him on that. I see. I did become an emperor, heh? Well, I guess I must have gotten mellowed out if I stopped at the status of an emperor though. 3. I don't care about that stuff and not interested. Like I said, what the heck are you? I ignored the complaint of the orb that started to talk about itself and asked the most important thing. I couldn't leisurely fight Velda in front of me after all. That's right. You are exactly like Rudra, but I can't think that you're just reproduced memories, you know. Reproduced memories? Vulgrine's words piqued my interest. Apparently, this orb has the effect of reproducing a dead person's memories. However, even if it can recreate a personality as close as the original, the soul is a different matter. It should be no more than a copy, but... yeah, it couldn't be said as reviving someone just by reproducing their memories. What's important for a soul is a heart. It's certainly very interesting. The memory orb that I made can only reproduce memories. There's no function such as recalling soul. If that was possible, there was no need for me to do troublesome stuff like this. Velda seemed to be interested in this phenomenon as well. Because he was well informed of the stuff he created, Rudra acquiring free will itself was impossible. Ha 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 ha. It's that, you know. I was super excellent, or something like that I guess. Let's ignore the boastful voice that could be heard from my left hand. Rudra certainly died. That was for sure, but... talking about a possibility, reincarnation may be one of the causes. Reincarnation? What did you mean by that? Emperor Rudra had his soul torn apart due to repeated reincarnations. It's possible that torn parts of the soul gathered together and became another soul. Neither an existing soul nor a temporary soul, it has a heart with a high degree of freedom. His soul was torn apart every time he reincarnated and gathered as one. It's a bad example for an analogy, but is it like the residues of an eraser lumped together to make a needed eraser for, or something like that? Treating a soul and an eraser as the same might be a problem though. It wasn't something you would normally think about, but I could hardly say that's absolutely impossible. After all, I got reincarnated as a slime which you would normally consider as impossible. So, because there was a person with fragments of Rudra's soul somewhere in this world that the memory orb embedded with the memories was able to reproduce Rudra's will. In that case, I suddenly hit on a good idea. And then, I carried out the idea as ordered by my mischievous heart. Rimuru, what are you doing? Haha, this is interesting. Vilgrind confusedly raised her voice. Rudra felt it was interesting. I didn't really do anything great. I just threw the sword to Vilgrind. I fused the memory orb in my left hand with the sword I held in right hand, though. I embedded the memory orb into the base of the hilt of the god-class sword like a conspicuous shining jewel. Since I fused it so it became one with the sword, the orb part would be as strong as the sword. If there was really a reincarnated person who shared his soul, that person should be able to draw out Rudra's abilities by holding the sword. I made it that way so you could depend on it. In order to enable him to have conversation with the owner, I had also asked Seal Sensei to remake and changed Rudra into a pseudo-manas. Naturally, the information of the memory orb had been analyzed. I turned it into Intelligence Sword 5. Because I fused Rudra's will and the sword, from now on only someone with the same soul wavelengths as him can use the sword. In other words, the person who has the qualification to wield the sword will be the proof that the person is Rudra's reincarnation. Interesting, right? Don't do things as you please. I thought that she would get angry like that, but Vilgrind only took the sword into her embrace and stared at me. Rudra was laughing jovially. Ha 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 ha. Is that so? There's a possibility that I got reincarnated? I see that would explain why I got a free will. It's certainly interesting. So he laughed happily. Listening to Rudra's words, Vilgrind gave a nod as if to agree with him. Velda was annoyed, but he glared at with an expression as if he was satisfied with something. He thought about the reason why his own plan failed and admitted that or rather, Seal's deduction was right, I guess. While Velda's attention was on the intelligence sword, I unsheathed my katana and took a stance. With this, I could fight seriously. However, given that the will of the super excellent me remained a whole, I guess the person who might be my reincarnation now would surely be a cowardly fellow. I'm looking forward to our meeting. Fufu, that might be so. The last thing left from Rudra at the end was only his charisma, not even his prided luck remained. But conversely, that person might only inherit that luck. I want to meet that person if that person exists. Your reincarnation, a cowardly and lucky person. Vilgrind nonchalantly said. A cowardly and lucky person? There was someone who matched that description, but it couldn't be, right? Although the person in question had no charisma, that person was compensated with incredible luck though. I'm sure that the ability that person had is called the Chosen One. It's a coincidence. I'm sure it's a coincidence. I ignored Rudra and Vilgrind's conversation and abandoned any further thoughts. Fate would decide their encounter, and if that person was really Rudra's reincarnation, they would eventually come across even if I didn't say anything. Besides, if my thoughts were right, that person probably wouldn't be able to run from Vilgrind. Well, it didn't matter to me. I guess I did do some unnecessary things, but the rest was their problem. I irresponsibly decided that Rudra and the others' matter would have nothing to do with me. Like that, it seemed I had succeeded in buying time. Velda was too wary of me and only attempted minor attacks. I easily parried them and waited until the preparation was completed. Then, finally. We did it, Rimuru. I and Gaia completely locked up the heaven to another space. So I heard Ramaris shout. Alright, good job. With this, we blocked your escape. This time for sure, I showed a triumphant smile towards Velda. It would be meaningless if we cornered him this far just for him to run away. Therefore, I brought Ramaris and Gaia, Earth Sovereign Dragon, fell Gaia to the heaven and asked them to lock this place completely. It was impossible for Ramaris because she had her own labyrinth, but it was demonstrated that Gaia could create a pseudo-labyrinth. Under Ramari's guidance, Gaia's labyrinth completely covered up this heaven. You bastard, so that was your aim. I could see the color of emotions for the first time in Velda's expressions. That agitation was exactly what I intended. Furthermore, Ramaris and Gaia succeeded in rescuing Milim who got caught. QI. Gaia. When did you become strong like this? Milim was safely rescued and she seemed to be surprised with Gaia's growth. Mission completed on this side, Rimuru. Go on and send that guy flying. Ramaris proudly gave the go sign towards me. In addition to her. To be honest, I wanted to do it myself, but unfortunately, I can't win. Rimuru, please avenge me. Milim said so. Leave it to me. I'll carve it properly into your body as the reward of laying your hands on my precious friends. I raised one hand to answer Milim and declared so towards Velda. Well then, since all of the trouble was sorted out, let's end this quickly. When I thought so, a terrific explosion was heard in a corner of the heaven was blown away. I was surprised and turned my focus to that direction. Just as I thought, I saw Feldera-san, who became pitch black over there. There were two kanji used for heaven, Tenjukai and Tenkyukai. Seal used the first one, which can also mean celestial world, while the other people use the second one, which would be closer to sky world. Tenkyu means sky but can also mean heaven. I'll just keep both as heaven. 2 Chukyuka. Super / ultra / hyper strengthening / power up / boost. 3 could be a pun. Can also mean rounded. It also has the kanji maru in it. For this kind of eraser, also known as putty rubber. 5. Chizatama no Shinken, Intelligence Susodo. Divine sword with intelligence orb / ball / sphere. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 245, Final Decisive Battle Part 6. Final Decisive Battle Part 6. What the heck are you doing? When I thought that Kua power, I ran out of power at the last moment. Feldera-san insisted on something which was no more than an excuse. I guess he was fine. Although I didn't really feel the need to be worried about him, I couldn't help it considering his usual antics. He looked awful, but there seemed to be no other problems. That's right. After all, Feldera-san was the only one who suffered any damage from that big explosion. Everyone else seemed to be unharmed. What a relief. Oh well, if it's Feldera-san, I felt a mysterious reassurance that he would turn out okay even if he was seriously injured. Since his real body was inside me, it wasn't an exaggeration. What are you doing? Didn't you boast that you would be fine? Grr, that's my line. Why did the corridor suddenly close even though I tried to suppress the explosion with force? When I asked him mixed with a sigh, Feldera angrily asked back at me. Corridor? Did he mean the soul corridor? Phew. It's because Feldera had been the one most wasteful with Master's magic essences. I wanted to teach him a lesson, so I calculated that it will go out of control, but that it would only damage him and closed the soul corridor at the perfect moment. You did what? Rather, Seal-san appeared to be angry for some reason. Although she had said that Feldera could use it as much as he liked in the previous conversation, what's with this sudden change of attitude here? In the first place, I've been suppressing the usage so that the energy won't be used inefficiently. As for this, Feldera is. When I saw you absorbing the energy, I thought I wanted to copy it too. Even though it was just a bit more and I would have completed it and powered up myself too. No, I think that's impossible. I guess this is what people would call flabbergasted. I never said to him not to copy someone else, but I wished in such a tense situation we had here, he wouldn't try something that he couldn't do. First of all, how can Feldera power up himself if he didn't have the ability to convert energy? It was a simple task, all he had to do was to suppress and offset it normally. It's amazing that he could deliberately mess up. Feldera-san probably tried to blend it with a large amount of energy he tried to draw out from me while suppressing it with his own full power. Did he assume that by doing that he could forcibly take in the altered energy? Not just that, he tried to pour the energy through the soul corridor when he couldn't get used to it smoothly. Rather than a power-up, he probably planned a recycling. I see. Certainly, Seal-san could deal with it easily, but it would be risky if sending weird things became a habit. She's right by refusing, as she seemed to be conveniently used as someone who took care of things when he was in trouble. Since he couldn't deal with it himself, he pushed it to Seal-san and took the energy as he pleased. Even Seal-san would flip out over that. Though she meant to rake him over the coals, she probably wanted to punish Feldera. As expected, not even Feldera could deal with it since Seal-san had done it when he was unprepared for something like that. Oh well, Seal-san probably determined the moment when he couldn't handle it though. I was surprised that such foolish exchanges were happening without my knowledge. No matter how I look at it, isn't that your own fault? Grr. It's not fair that only Rimuru can use such a convenient ability. Don't go grr at me. Are you a kid? Oh, well, whatever, his foolishness was quite painful for everyone to see. Feldera, you. See? Even Vilgrind, who put the sword over her shoulder, is now glaring this way with half-opened eyes, you know? It's very scary that Veltsard is smiling but her eyes aren't. I told that to Feldera through eye contact. Oh no. So Feldera, whose face turned miserable, seemingly wanted to say. It seemed he realized that he was getting a bit too full of himself and he looked back and forth between me and his two sisters in panic. Well, practice is the key. Even you will be able to use it if you keep doing your best, so be diligent. Therefore, help me to defeat Velda first. I decided to give Feldera a helping hand. My reason was it would be a bother if he ended up sulking, but Feldera-san, who was shivering before his two older sisters, looked pitiful if I didn't do anything. I acted like this time he just messed up a bit and everything was going as planned from the start. Ha, ha ha ha. I guess so. It seems I have been a bit too overconfident. One has to learn humbleness or something like that, right? Alright, then I'll return inside and lend you my strength. Until the end, Feldera was still glossing over his coolness and returned back inside me as if he was running away. He owed me one for this. Since it was a good chance, I decided to make Feldera-san reside inside my katana. I got Feldera's agreement and put Feldera, who underwent True Dragon Core transformation, into the katana. I didn't feel like being stingy in this seemingly final decisive battle. I thought that it was great that I could retrieve Feldera back smoothly, since Velda would be very cautious if he were to see Feldera transforming in front of his eyes. Since I pretended that I retrieved him back because he was hurt, Velda wouldn't notice the change in my katana. Feldera-san's mischievous conducts were surprising, but it might result in something good. Well, with this, my preparation was complete and I only had to defeat Velda now. I could ignore the effects on my surroundings since this is in the sky. If I used my full power on the surface, it would become a serious problem due to environmental destruction. I did cut apart the ocean before, the follow-up afterward was very hard. It seemed that when Guy and Milim fought each other long ago, they ended creating a barren desert. With that said, the heaven could be said as a perfect place. Hey, need help? Guy asked. I was happy with the offer, but I would be fine alone. Because I planned to swing Feldera's sword, it would be a big problem if anyone got involved. No, me alone is enough. However, since I'm planning to unleash a bit of my full power, so it would be quite helpful if you help Ramirez with the barrier. I don't want Velda to run away from this place and just want things absolutely ensured. Oh? You're quite confident. Okay, leave that to me. Guy nodded and began to help Ramirez in reinforcing the different world barrier one that covered up the heaven. I am counting on you, Rimuru. Milim looked at me with eyes full of anticipation, and following after Guy, she started to pour her power into Gaia in her embrace. It seemed that she was helping with the barrier's reinforcement. May fortune smiles in your favor, Rimuru-sama. Diablo encouraged me while he was tending to Testarossa and the other two. Let's finish this quickly and rebuild our country. Kyufu, I'm looking forward to it. If by any chance I got defeated. Surely you jest. It's impossible for Rimuru-sama to lose. Diablo declared so with a tremendous faith. I didn't have any intention to lose, but my victory wasn't guaranteed either. Diablo didn't seem to think that I could lose at all. Sensei. I'll finish everything. It seems I can finally save you. Sensei. If Sensei looks about to lose. Don't worry. It's impossible for me to lose, you know? Whether that's true or not, I'll prove it right away. I cheerfully quoted Diablo's words and Chloe finally smiled. Yes. I'll be waiting for it. I could feel the strength behind her words, that she would be waiting for me, as her tense expression seemed to soften a bit. I was worried about Chloe, who was kind of unstable, but she would be fine now. Guy, Milim, Ramirez, Chloe, Diablo, and Testarossa and the others. Veltsard and Vilgrind, the true dragon sisters, and Felgaia, who was maintaining the different world barrier. Everyone's gazes were concentrated on my back and I raised one hand to answer it. I maintained my gaze to Velda. Sorry to keep you waiting. Well, let's get started. Shut up. Don't get full of yourself just because you won over these mobs. It'll be easy for me to massacre all of you if I get serious. Ah, is that so? I think it's impossible, but try it if you can. My and Velda's sights intersected simultaneously with my katana and his sword. At that moment, a clear sound echoed in the place as a severed tip of a blade flew into the air and stuck on the ground. Velda's face was dyed with shock. Naturally, it was because I slashed Velda's sword with my katana. Moreover, the shock waves caused by my surging slash blew away half of the remaining castle. The delayed echoes were the sounds of the destroyed castle crumbling. Let's deliver the final blow on Velda with the sounds as his requiem. Velda had created a new sword without panicking. It was impressive that he immediately regained his calm, but it had been proven before that his sword was no match against Feldara's sword. I swung the katana again and slashed Velda's sword off. I thought it was amazing that he could create many god-class swords, but even I could do something similar. It wasn't an ability that needed to be fussed over so much. It can't be. Although mine is ranked the lowest, it's definitely a god-class sword. No, what is with his sword? Impossible. Could it be a Genesis class too? He seemed to finally have noticed it. About my katana, Feldara's sword. It was my first time hearing Genesis class or something like that, but I didn't really care about such a thing. Its silvery blade is dyed with aura thinly cladding it and emitting jet black radiance. On its blade, the golden blade pattern undulating beautifully, giving off a very fantastic beauty. It's really a shame to call a sword with an unserious name as Feldara's sword. Oh well, Feldara-san's real form is also jet black colored and he looks magnificent and beautiful if he shuts his mouth though. Hey, did you think of something really rude just now? Nope, everything is fine. I felt like I heard some kind of dissatisfied voice, but let's not worry about it. I don't know what class this sword is. It has nothing to do with defeating you. Come now, let's end our warm UPS and quickly show me what you can really do. I have plenty of time, but they are not for playing with you. I declared at Velda as I wanted to finish this soon. There was no point to keep playing with him. I thought about becoming serious soon. However, I perceived something was wrong with Velda. Cut, what I can really do, you said? Don't you dare underestimate me, for I'm the true successor of Veldanava. With an expression distorted by anger and humiliation, Velda brought his hands together. Then, he shouted Divine Sword Summon and a sword harboring ominous power was summoned. Unlike his previous creations, it was a mysterious sword that clearly was of a higher rank. I shall give you my praise for making me take out this sword, my last resort. This Genesis, Veldanava Sword 3. It was a beautiful sword. A large long sword with a slightly inward curved blade. The blade shined with blue glow as if the blade itself emitted the light. Contrary to its appearance, its mass might be comparable to a planet. It was a cluster of super high-dense energy. It seemed to be a Genesis class thingy he mentioned earlier, so we became equal in terms of weapon or something like that. As I expected, it was unlikely for me to win easily, but this was within my expectations. Rimuru, it was beyond my expectation that you possess a sword comparable to this one and only Genesis class, you know. However, since I've pulled out this sword, it's over for you. Velda declared with his restored confidence. Then, he swung down the sword toward me. His movement was exactly what you would call as Godspeed. It might be impossible to react to it if it was not me. However, from my point of view, Velda's movement was really crude. Although I said that the warm-up was over, is he still testing me? Or perhaps he underestimated me this late in the game because I was lower ranked than him. I didn't mind either way though. Since I would just do what I had to do. Too slow. I muttered a few words and swung my katana. Velda hurriedly changed the trajectory of his sword and stopped my katana. However, he was unable to bear with the overwhelming shock wave that occurred when our blades clashed and he was blown away while breaking several piles of rubble as he rolled over the ground. However, that was strange. It was certainly a terrifying shock wave, but I only felt it was like a breeze. Was this guy perhaps Could it be that was his full power? I thought there was no way that was true and denied that thought. When I met Velda in the imperial capital, I felt a very threatening presence from him. If we fought that time, I thought that it was very probable for me to lose. And yet, I didn't feel the same threat from him now. Of course. Master is evolving every day after all. To answer my question, Seal-san declared so as if what she said was natural. Hey, didn't you say that super strengthening or something like that was not possible? And yet, why did I feel like I'm getting super strong? Master is an exception. Plus, there's an exception even for everything else. Isn't that a double standard? For Seal-san to conclude her explanation with a double standard, how formidable she had become. Damn it, if only Raphael, if only I got my hands on Raphael, I could become the ultimate form. Velda began shouting something he regretted. Raphael? Did he mean the ultimate skill that I had? Seal-san had said it was unnecessary and erased it after the synthesis, but was it really such an important skill? I had that skill before, but it's already gone now, you know? Unfortunately, but there was no possibility for your wish to come true. With the intention to break his heart in a bit of compassion, I cruelly informed Velda. Our fight's outcome would be decided by the one whose heart broke first. Therefore, what I said would become a decisive blow against Velda. It can't be? Raphael is gone. Then, I can't prove that I'm Veldanava. Velda muttered unclear words with his hollow expression. How foolish. Even if he supposedly was able to manifest your skill, it will be impossible for an impostor to be acknowledged as Veldanava. Seal sent her thoughts as if to deal the final blow on Velda. Could you send your thought to everyone like that? Or rather, what did you mean with acknowledging Veldanava or something like that? I just said what was appropriate, please don't mind it. Is that true? Seal-san said that she said that to break Velda's heart, but she didn't hide something, right? Without my knowing, it seemed the means of communication had increased. Seal-san was really full of mysteries. It's okay. There's no problem. No, it's not that. Oh well, whatever. She might be not lying, but I didn't think she said the truth either. It can't be, I am Veldanava. I won't accept this. If only I have Raphael, the real Lucia will acknowledge me. Velda shouted as if he went mad and attacked me without care of anything, but his weak attacks wouldn't work on me. I easily repelled his sword and blew Velda away for the second time. I guess it was not a fight anymore. His heart was broken too, what was left for me was to deal the final blow. When I thought so. It's Rimura's victory. I heard Guy said that. Hey, if you say something like that. Wait, Guy. When you say something like that, if I remember correctly you will set off a flag, saying something like that is quite famous in the industry, you know. That's right. I also studied Rimura's manga. It's taboo to say something like that, you know. Ramiris and Milim came to stop Guy faster than I was. However, not just Guy, the true Dragon Sisters also joined the fray. What are you guys trying to say? No matter how you look at it, isn't this Rimura's complete victory? That's true, Velda has tremendous power for a fake, but as I expected he's not comparable with the real Anu. He doesn't seem to be a match for that absurd slime. The two of them eagerly said those words as if the crisis had passed. Like I said, it'll be a lead-up before the enemy gets stronger, so stop with statements like that. That's right, that's right. They called this cliché, you know. Milim shouted and Ramiris agreed to her. However, they were already too late. Phew phew phew, ah ha 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 ha. Velda stood up while laughing. Have he lost it? No, rather than that, his expression is. I knew it. It was as I had expected, Rimura-san. With a smile I knew very well, he called me with his clear voice. This sensation, this guy is without a doubt. Is that you, Yuuki? Yes, long time no see. As I expected, Velda couldn't win against you. However, it's not a problem. He had earned me plenty of time. Well, shall we start the final battle between you and me? While still smiling, Yuuki said so and pointed Genesis, Veldanava sword at me. One Ikeikekai. Ikai can also mean spirit/foreign/alien world, underworld. But imo different world fit the context. Other world barrier. 2. Sausi IQ, Jinshisu. World creation class/rank. 3. Sausi Icon, Jinshisu Siiryu Kakyukan, Varudanava. World creation sword, Genesis Stellar Lord Dragon's Horn sword/blade/edge. I add sword to it for easier differentiation between the sword and the person. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 246, Rimura vs Yuuki First Part. Rimura vs Yuuki First Part. I knew it was my honest thoughts. I calmly pondered in the middle of a fierce sword fight. To begin with, why would he need a 1-month delay? If we fought in that place that day, I didn't know what the outcome would be. If he had sent Chloe toward me at that time, while I wouldn't lose, the fight would still be difficult. If he used Velda's power, he should be able to handle Feldera and Vilgrind while I was being toyed with by Chloe. Moreover, Cagali, Vega and the Angels could have killed Diablo and the others. There were people who could use unique skills such as teleportation like my two. I think that the prediction wasn't wrong altogether. Even according to Sealsan's calculation, our chance of winning wasn't high, just around 40%. Although, if I could kill Chloe without hesitation, our chance of winning would be over 80% and the situation would be reversed. That's why I thought they acted carefully since they feared I would act without hesitation, but I changed my mind after I saw the Angels assembly and the explosion phenomenon this time. Or rather, I'm convinced. Velda, whose goal is to destroy the world, would have been more advantageous if he could do that. Because everything would have been better for him if he were to hold down and eliminate us by making the energy of the Angels go berserk. What was the reason for why he didn't do that? He wants to buy time. I and Seal agreed on the same thing. Although he disappeared while saying plausible things at the end, what if all of that was Yuuki's acting? All pieces seemed to fit together. Kukyuku, ahahahahahaha. This is really unexpected. I didn't expect it, really. You'd be the most dangerous of all. Bravo, Rimura-san. I really did want to end the world with my own hands. But, unfortunately, I really can't imagine myself winning against you. Not to mention, even that demon over there. Your power is just too insane. That chills I got when we first met was right on the money. I should have ended you back then. Did I lose my marbles somewhere? Well, it doesn't matter at all now. No, in fact, if you can stop me, that'd just be the will of the world. I guess, we'll decide the rest, heh. Goodbye, Rimura-san. I kinda liked you a bit too. Honestly, we could have been friends, you know. I ended up honestly trusting those words. He changed into Velda at the end with those words and I thought that Yuuki had told me his true intention. However, I was wrong. It was already too late at this point. Perhaps, he had started since we first met. I must admit that he acted splendidly, I was even outwitted. Although Seal seemed to have doubts about it, she couldn't find any definite fault. I was gullible enough to believe Yuuki's words. On the contrary, she had said that she suspected that it was some kind of a ruse. While I laughed it off that she might be overthinking it, but if it meant something, what was it? The two of us made the prediction over it. That answer we concluded isn't his goal for the 1-month delay to buy himself some time, or something like that. And, that was the right answer, Yuuki gradually made the power as his own inside Velda. You've deceived me until the end to buy yourself some time. Ahaha, you figured it out? 100 points for you, Rimura-san. Well, it seems that Velda was completely deceived about that too. Hey, there's a saying, to fool the enemy, first deceive your allies, after all, right? Stop with your bullshit, I really believed you. Haha, that what they called is naive, you know. For you to believe the words of your enemy, your mind is really simple you know, Rimura-san. Yuuki mockingly shrugged his shoulders. Looking at him, Diablo and Milim gnashed their teeth while shooting nothing but death glares towards Yuuki. However, the aura emanated from Yuuki which was incomparable from before, coerced and made them unable to move their body at all. What a terrifying growth, no, evolution. Our weapons were on equal terms, but I felt mine was inferior. Veldanava's sword didn't budge even after it was struck by Feldera's sword. And, Yuuki who wielded it skillfully parried the impact unlike Velda. How did you get this much power? I don't feel I need to tell you, but well I did make you wait for 1 month, I guess I could tell that much. It's really simple, I just suppressed Velda and turned him into my subordinate. After I fully analyzed his power, I also completely analyzed Velda's knowledge and understood all of it. Thanks to that, I could easily get the power of an awakened hero too. Lucky for me, I also stole some of Leon's power. After that, I just changed our relationship from 50-50 relation into a complete domination with me in charge. Oh yeah, it was easy because Rimuru-san had crushed Velda's hope and broke his heart. Thanks for that. Yuuki replied smilingly. I regretted asking as what this guy said didn't always meant the truth. I was curious and unintentionally asked, but I could get deceived again if I carelessly speak with him. Although I had pompously reprimanded it was unfunny as I got myself deceived too. Talking more than this with him was dangerous and I would rather concentrate on the fight with my full power. I assume that Yuuki's words just now are true, but I agree that talking more than this is dangerous. Seal seemed to have sensed the danger too and agreed with my opinion. A top-class trickster was so troublesome to deal with. As I took pride that I wouldn't be deceived easily, I felt angry that I ended up being led around by the nose by someone. However, if I got caught in too much, it would lead to a great failure. I couldn't really laugh at with this. From our conversation just now, Yuuki had said that he got the power of an awakened hero. Then, it wouldn't be strange for him to have the power of an awakened demon lord too even if he didn't say it. After all, his subordinate, Kazarim was also an awakened demon lord. Hero and demon lord, powers of different natures were united in the same will called Velda, and a being who could control that power as it pleased that would be what Yuuki had become now. Surprisingly, it was clear that the current Yuuki had an equal power to me. However, for Rimuru-san to be the one who had Raphael. I had thought that was possible, but just as I expected. Since my plan didn't work out smoothly, I suspected you might have anticipated them. However, I didn't expect the skill that Velda was looking for was in the hand of Rimuru-san, his biggest enemy. This has really made Velda look like a clown. He's so laughable, right? As soon as I thought about ending our conversation, Yuuki spoke as if to block me from doing so. I heard a pleasant tone echoed from Yuuki's voice as if he sincerely thought that Velda was hilarious. What a tough opponent. I parried Yuuki's sword and slashed him back while keeping my mouth shut. Ahaha. Don't be so wary like that. You see, Velda believed that he was Feldinava's reincarnation. There's no way that could be true, what a foolish guy. It was no more than an ability. It was Feldinava's original ability, so I had him inherit all of the memories. In other words, Velda was just a similar existence like Kondu and Damrata whom were called back with memory orb. He's a pathetic Manas that's even inferior to the irregular being like Rudra. What a fool, isn't he? A tool that didn't even have dragon factor and yet he misunderstood everything. However, even a fool like Velda was capable enough as a support for me. After all, I can control all of Feldinava's abilities now. Yuuki kept on blabbering about things even though I wasn't asking. His plan was to confuse me with the conversation? However, his plan was actually quite successful. It was because it made me unable to concentrate very well. Even though we were in the midst of a fight, Yuuki's words disturbed my thoughts. Good grief, what a really troublesome guy he was. Nonetheless, if what Yuuki had said was true, I could understand how he got the power equal to mine. It was probably true that Velda was a Manas. An existence that assisted all of your abilities was very helpful, just like Seal-san. Even if it was a spell formulation with difficult control, it could activate it as your proxy. In other words, while you are concentrating in close combat like this, further attacks could be prepared without your opponent sensing it. However, I couldn't comprehend why Yuuki would bother to tell me that. I suspected the motive behind it, whether it was also one of his plans. The existence of a Manas itself could be considered as a very important trump card that should be hidden. After all, I naturally felt the desire to find out his goal for telling me that. No, I suppose making me worried itself like this was what Yuaki expected. There would be no end if I kept on thinking about it. I earnestly reconfirmed that Yuaki was a very troublesome enemy for me. You said that can control all of Feldinava's powers? Don't get conceited, you lowly human. Guy, who was listening to me and Yuaki's conversation, shouted while glaring at Yuaki with his crimson eyes blazed with fury. As if they were following his lead, Veltsard and Volgrind also nodded. That's right. In the first place, it was me who sealed Feldinava's holy corpse. As long as that seal not broken, there's no way someone like you can control all of the powers. Thus, Ramiris instinctively shouted. When he heard that, Yuaki wickedly grinned and smiled. Wait a minute? Why did Ramiris blabber about such important information so easily like that? No matter how careless and scatterbrained Ramiris was, this was clearly strange. Too bad. Your seal was pointless. If I make you angry, why don't you release the seal and check it yourself? Don't you dare make fun of me. Okay, let me do that. I was convinced when I saw Ramiris was about to respond to Yuaki's provocation. Diablo, stop Ramiris. As you wish. Diablo moved promptly to my order. Gently, but assuredly. He locked up Ramiris, who was kicking up a fuss about something, inside the deployed magic barrier. Hey. What is this, Rimuru? Calm down, Yuaki's aim was for you to remove the seal, you know. Just now, you were acting according to his words. Ha. I calmly answered to the shout of the dissatisfied Ramiris. Ramiris was speechless when she heard my explanation. That would be so. After all, she probably didn't have any recollection about it. If you only listened to the exchange of the words, it was unlikely for you to be tricked by the contents of the conversation. And yet, she unconsciously tried to act as Yuaki wanted. It was something unbelievable if you think about it calmly, so I naturally thought that there was some kind of skill involved in this. It seemed I had to make sure about this. There was a possibility of me being manipulated too, but I decided to trust Seal about this matter. Please leave it to me. I will analyze Yuaki's skills. I spoke to Yuaki after I received the reply from the reliable Seal. All this occurred while continuing to respond to the fierce sword blows without averting my sight from Yuaki. Yuri still a trickster as ever, Yuaki. Ahaha, what do you mean? Don't play dumb. You put thought guidance in your words and you could even trick those with a strong will. I'm sure that's it, not a technique on the level of suggestive or hypnotism or something like that. It's very impressive of you. Oh my, thank you. But, it's not fun now that you have seen through it though. Like I care. Yuaki dodged my words with his aloof attitude. Since he wasn't fazed by it, he seemed to have anticipated that things were to be seen through. Then, this meant thought guidance wasn't his trump card. It might be more reliable to deal with Yuaki's words by treating them all as lies. No, could it be that was his aim? If he mixed a bit of truth within the lies, he could make me under the impression that even the truths were lies too. Was it the reverse pattern of mixing a bit of lies into the truths? I think that's very likely. Unfortunately, I have analyzed the wavelength pattern of all his energy including his voice print, but I couldn't discern whether he's lying or telling the truth. Just as I suspected. However, it was a pain that even Seal was unable to tell it apart. It would be certainly difficult as we couldn't read him even from his expressions or emotions. There was nothing that could be done about this. Then, that meant I had no other choice but to judge it myself, what information that Yuaki would want me to believe that it was a lie. Additionally, I've confirmed that Yuaki's words harbored some kind of power. This is probably the primitive magic one, power of words too. I presumed that thought guidance might have evolved. What? Power of words, you said? I asked Seal-san for more details. Any kind of primitive magic was placed on a higher rank than the magic used by the demons. She said that it was the source of all magic. However, its characteristic wasn't manipulating physical phenomenon. She told me that it had the power to affect the soul. While it had no effect on physical matters, its effect was tremendous inside the spiritual world. In other words, it was a terrifying magic that could exert its effect in invalidating defensive barriers. I was surprised that it could affect even strong people who had awakened ultimate skill. Also, a being who could use this magic would become the natural enemy of any spiritual life form. Just like how Ramiris easily got induced now, it could affect the inside of someone's heart. For now, our swordsmanship was on equal terms. Neither I nor Yuuki was being impatient, but neither of us had received any blows. Yuuki protected his whole body with a god-class armor, but it wouldn't be able to withstand a hit from Feldera's sword. Likewise, I wasn't confident that I could withstand a hit from Veldanava's sword. After all, I felt energy surpassing Feldera's sword from that sword. Its power truly should be called as the incarnation of Veldanava. It can't be you really can control Veldanava's powers. My hunch told me so as if I received a divine revelation. The reason why Yuuki was buying himself time was probably to get enough power to beat us for sure. If that was the case, it was pretty logical that meant for him to obtain Veldanava's powers. What the heck are talking about? There's no way that could be true. That's right, Rimuru. Like I said before, if the seal is not removed. Guy and Ramiris were denying it, but Veltsard and Vilgrind were silent. Milim was silent as well. They probably had sensed it. The same surges as Veldanava's powers. It was the power overflowing from the sword Yuuki wielded. Aha, aha ha 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 ha. Yuuki suddenly began to laugh as if the dam inside was now broken. He kept laughing while blocking the blows from my sword. Then. Fufu, bravo, Rimuru-san. There would be nothing at all even if that fairy over there had released the seal. I just wanted to see her face of despair when she did so. After all, it's true that I have broken the seal, you see. Everyone excluding me fell quiet as if they were frozen after they heard Yuuki's words. My intuition told me that he was telling the truth. It wasn't a lie to make me cautious. The reason was there was not much merit for him to tell such a lie. That meant Yuuki had broken Veldanava's seal in a month. And, the 1 month delay was for that purpose. Yeah, I wanted to see those faces. After all, I got really serious now. I may have lost the game to end the world using my tools, but wouldn't it be fine for me to have some fun until the end? Yuuki was laughing as if he was having fun from the bottom of his heart right now. 1. Gensho no Meiho, Purimadabu Magiku. Original/primal/primordial magic. 2. Koto Dama. Spirit of language / spirit of words / soul of language / magic words / power words / sacred words. This refers to the Japanese belief that mystical powers dwell in words and names. Names and words have special powers that can influence our surroundings, both in a positive and negative way. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 247, Rimuru vs Yuuki, Part 2. Rimuru vs Yuuki, Part 2. Yuuki felt the scene freeze over and inwardly savored the pleasure he felt from it. Now that he had become this strong, he was so close to realizing his purpose. And so he must have thought that he could allow himself to enjoy the sight of his worthy rival's sore faces. If this had happened 1 month earlier, every last one of them would have been a difficult opponent. However, he had no sense inferiority in regards to that. Rather, having such high-level fighters dance to his beat and control them as he wished in order to bring chaos and destruction to the world, that was the height of pleasure for him. And yet, due to the existence of Rimuru, who now stood before him, the plan that Yuuki had constructed had ended in utter failure. It had been a succession of unanticipated events. When they had first come against each other in the kingdom of Ingratia, he had felt an indescribable premonition. At the time, he had thrown Hinata at him as a safety measure, but Rimuru had slipped away and escaped. It was unthinkable that the ever-cautious and collected Hinata would make a mistake, and so when it was confirmed that Rimuru had survived, Yuuki knew that Rimuru would be his enemy. From then, until now, his plans had been without exception, crushed by the hands of Rimuru. Yuuki did not feel any anger in regards to this. On the contrary, he almost wanted to show his respect for the impressive skill that was displayed. Report this ad when the formation of the game board changed to the point where Yuuki could not win, even if he threw out all of the pieces in his hands. That is when he first decided to move out on his own. He would not be playing like that time he fought with Leon. For the first time in his life, he had resolved to seriously pursue power. He calculated that it would take him 1 month to investigate every power. In the meantime, he decided to allow Velda to stand in the firing line and do as he pleased. For the most part, Yuuki's personality was positioned on the top, but as they were beings of equal rank who alternated from one to the other, he was not able to change this with his own will once he had withdrawn. And so this was also a gamble for him. Velda's purpose was also to destroy the world, but their final goals were different. Yuuki's final goal was to return this world to nothing, but not Velda. Once the world was destroyed, Velda wanted to create a new world with himself as a god. For Yuuki, this was such an indulgent way of thinking that he could only laugh. He knew very well that he would fail as he gave the last order. And the result was just as Yuuki had predicted. Yuuki may have been a genius, but it was not as if he had obtained all of Feldinava's powers. And it was also a lie that he could use all of Feldinava's abilities. But that was hardly a problem. Because it was true that he could use most of Feldinava's abilities. Yuuki had obtained more than enough power to bring destruction to this world. The manas known as Velda had specialized in all of the ultimate skills. However, he did not have the ability to replicate. The reason for this was clear and simple. Insufficient space. In the past month, Yuuki had analyzed all of the abilities and selected the ones he wanted. He restored the ultimate skill, Greedy King Mammon, to its existing value and attempted to replicate the abilities that he needed. And that had become possible when he was able to completely replicate Creation Lord Ahura Mazda. However, there were some abilities that he could not replicate no matter what. The ultimate and supreme ability, Turn Null, which they say gave birth to the primordial energy needed to create worlds. In the end, it was irreproducible. Even if he had been able to replicate that ability, he would have to create a world as Feldinava had done, or else the energy would have just run wild and then disappear. After all, as the name Turn Null suggested, it was a pure, ultra-high-density energy that could destroy everything. It was an extreme ability from another dimension that allowed you to destroy the existing world and create a new one. It is said that Feldinava created this world and lost Turn Null. And what remained after that was the Mana Breeder Reactor. Feldinava was the most powerful because this ability allowed him to inexhaustibly create mana. And the Mana Breeder Reactor was inherited by Milim, which made her the most powerful. Being able to control the concentrated mana that was stardust, was a byproduct of the Mana Breeder Reactor. Yuuki had also replicated this ultimate power. Yuuki had become a god, exceeding spiritual life forms. And so with Velda's knowledge, he had created the Mana Breeder Reactor and had complete control over it. However, as it were, he did not have enough space to be able to use his other abilities. He would be nothing more than a watered-down version of Milim. It was possible for him to control the output like Guy did, but that would not allow him to surpass them. Yuuki had considered all this and then thought of the idea of having the abilities replicated in the Feldinava sword. The Feldinava sword was the fruit of Feldinava's power. Half of Feldinava's max energy was concentrated inside of it. It was a god sword that Milim was supposed to inherit one day. Consequently, there was no need to replicate the abilities in Velda's memories. He just needed to dismantle his own ultimate skill, Creation Lord Ahura Mazda, and fuse it with Velda's knowledge. And that would give birth to the origin skill, Information King, Akashic Records. This origin skill, Information King, Akashic Records would be installed into the Feldinava sword. And it would be adjusted so that you could always use whichever ability you selected when you wanted. It was adjusted to be used by Yuuki exclusively, so Velda could not use it. Velda's role was to maintain the Mana Breeder Reactor to be in an optimal state at all times, in order to act as a permanent monitoring device. And this was how Yuuki was reborn into the embodiment of absolute power, who could use all of the abilities. There was only one person left who Yuuki was cautious of. Only Rimuru, who now stood before him with a dumbfounded expression. This annoying monster had always been able to exceed Yuuki's expectations. And so there was no need to hold back. Depending on what he could ascertain of his power, it may become necessary for Yuuki to use his most powerful skill to dispose of him. They were equal in terms of power. Yuuki was godlike and an awakened hero. But even when he had the Mana Breeder Reactor running at the highest, he was unable to outmatch Rimuru's power. This was insane. This is troublesome, really. I had thought that I would be able to win when it came to power. Yuuki had the upper hand in terms of weapon functionality, but he didn't know if that would still be true if the fight dragged on for too long. Velda, I'm going to use the energy at full force. Charge the Veldanava sword with power until it reaches its absolute limit. Report this ad. Yuuki ordered Velda and then began to swing at Rimuru with a speed that far surpassed his previous attacks. However, even these were easily parried by Rimuru. There was an energy that enveloped both of their swords so that they would not be damaged. It intervened with every clash and shockwaves erupted, but it was little more than a gentle wind to both Yuuki and Rimuru. I didn't expect him to be able to deal with that step. However, it seems that his reactions are becoming slower. Our skills with the sword are probably still at a tie. Yuuki snapped his fingers loudly. In the same instant, the movement of the world halted. Time had stopped. You're stopping time now? There is no point in that. Yeah, I don't think there is either. You lying bastard. It's to crush my specialty so you can have an advantage when we fight. Ahahaha. I suppose that it's no secret. Yuuki laughed mischievously. He had easily stopped time with primitive magic. There were two reasons for doing this. The first was, as Rimuru had said, to limit the use of discharge-type abilities. Rimuru had many methods of attacks, and limiting his options now would help Yuuki continue the fight at an advantage. And more than anything, stopping time was the best way to prevent suspicious magic, such as the circle of magic that Diablo had shown earlier. It was impossible to use magic within a world where time had stopped, yes, with the exception of primitive magic. Yuuki had sealed all of Rimuru's magic attacks and created an environment where he alone could use magic. Burn furiously, primitive flames. Yuuki ordered, and at the same time, Rimuru was covered in flames. Whoa! How can you use magic when time has stopped? Just as he had hoped, Rimuru had not anticipated this attack. In succession, Yuuki continued the attacks by just thinking of them. He pushed him back with the flames, then hardened the ground to prevent him from moving. Then he severed the space, toying with Rimuru. This was the card he had up his sleeve. The trump card that he had been sure would be effective. But unfortunately, Yuuki had concluded that this primitive magic was not enough to defeat Rimuru. It was obvious, of course, but there was a well-calculated reason that Yuuki was using primitive magic in spite of it not being the decisive blow. According to Yuuki's judgment, Rimuru had a habit of always observing his enemy's attacks. This was an indication of how confident he was that he could deal with any attack, but it wasn't only that. Yuuki believed that it came from a fundamental softness within Rimuru, who wished to search for his enemy's true intent, to find out if they could not come to an understanding. And this time, Yuuki would target this habit. Just as he had predicted, Rimuru had not been going all out from the beginning, which had allowed him to successfully activate the time freeze. And if he used his primitive magic while time had been stopped, then there was a high probability that Rimuru would begin to analyze his actions. Primitive magic was his trump card, but it was still impossible to defeat Rimuru like this. In that case, while it was a precious asset, he could still use it as bait. That was Yuuki's decision. He could do nothing until he had won this battle. If he used it now, it would at least give him a small advantage. This was what Yuuki thought, and so he had no intention of being stingy with it. After all, if he used everything that he had and won against Rimuru, he would then be able to accomplish his hopes. His enemy was Rimuru alone. Every time he thought this, Yuuki would rate Rimuru very highly. It seemed like Rimuru was analyzing the primitive magic just like Yuuki had planned. He couldn't say that it was a bad thing to try to read your opponent's hand during a fight. However, in a fight like Yuuki and Rimuru were engaged in now, where they were in the middle of such a tight back and forth, having your mind on something so small could be a bad move. Ever since this fight had started, no, even before it had started, Yuuki had made multiple preparations. Aside from analyzing abilities inside of Velda, he was constantly thinking about plans of what to do in order to kill this most powerful being who was able to match him. He had not frozen time and limited Rimuru's abilities only to put himself in an advantageous position. If anything, Yuuki's aim was to have Rimuru believe that that was why he did it. His true aim for stopping time was nothing so small as that. You're too easy, Yuuki. I'm onto you now. You better not be thinking that you are the only one who can use magic while time has stopped. It seemed that Rimuru had finished analyzing the primitive magic much faster than Yuuki had predicted. The primitive flames that Yuuki had just unleashed without chanting were now frozen by Rimuru. Yuuki's will was cancelled out by this fight between fire and ice. There was nothing to do but laugh, Yuuki thought. In such a short time, even less if you considered that time had stopped, his trump card had become ineffective in a sudden flash. However, even this was according to Yuuki's plans. The katana and sword crossed each other. Both parties slashed with magnificent power. After all, while it had only been for a brief moment, he had succeeded in diverting Rimuru's conscience. I have been waiting for this moment. Report this, Yuuki sneers. And just as he clashed into Rimuru once again with all of his strength, he entered the final phase of his battle plan. While massive amounts of energy were colliding and spreading shockwaves, he activated a magic technique without chanting. Of course, now that Rimuru understood primitive magic, he was able to activate his own magic to nullify it in return. Ah, it was just as I thought. I knew that Rimuru would take the proper actions, all according to the script. Yuuki was quite satisfied, but at the same time felt a slight feeling of hollowness as well. He had realized that in spite of the fact that he could read his opponent to this level, in the end, they would never really understand each other in the truest sense. They were really just strangers, and they would only ever understand each other completely in his dreams. Yuuki felt such sentiments in his heart, but he released his final trump card before he was able to understand them. In the end, Yuuki and Rimuru were just enemies. At the same time that Rimuru activated magic nullification, Yuuki activated the device that had been installed in his left artificial arm. The arm transformed smoothly, and he pointed the magic circle that was carved into it at Rimuru and fired. And then the phenomenon was rewritten and converged into one magic. It was an ultimate magical art that was not possible for one person to activate. Chronosaltation. It was an ultimate superdimensional magic that caused the target to jump to a space-time where time had ended. The magic was born through using all of the energy around it and even swallowing up the raging chrono quake. And with this immeasurable energy, it had taken Rimuru away to the end of space-time. As a space-time continuum, even the associated clone body was completely uprooted along with Rimuru. Had the soul corridor not been closed, then Rimuru's underlings and even Velgrind might have been targeted by the magic. That was how powerful and frightful this magic was. So much that any kind of resistance would have been futile. It was impossible for Yuuki to activate chronosaltation by himself. The reason was simple. It was because it was a complex magic that required that you activate at least 2 magic spells at the same time. On top of that, this magic had to be of the same quality and have the same characteristics. What Yuuki had installed into his artificial arm was a simple ultimate technique. The effect was a reversal. It was a technique that reversed the effect of the magic you were using. Primitive magic was a magic that reflected your will. It was not something that Yuuki activated only after knowing what magic he would use. Just thinking it would make it activate. That was the biggest and most distinctive feature and the reason that it was called ultimate magic. Now that he had limited the use of magic through the freezing of time, it was possible for him to lead Rimuru into using the magic that he wanted him to use. The magic that Rimuru would activate was simple and easy to understand. He would immediately use Nullify. If he tried to analyze the magic that Yuuki activated, he would not be able to stop it. If you considered the time margin, he would have to nullify at the exact same time as Yuuki activated his magic, or it would be too late. That is what Yuuki had thought. And so he had revealed his trump card to Rimuru in order to lure his thoughts where he wanted, so he would act this way in this situation. And just as Yuuki had planned, Rimuru had activated the magic. All of it was through Yuuki's preparations, and Rimuru had acted accordingly without knowing it. In this atmosphere where Genesis-level energy collided and even chrono quakes were occurring, Yuuki had used the space-time magic, Time Stop. Normally, there would be no point in stopping time in a frozen world. Because you cannot stop something anymore after it has been stopped. However, the situation was a little different this time, due to something that Yuuki had set up. Rimuru had activated his magic so that it only contained energy that had the exact opposite properties as Yuuki's magic, in order to nullify it. And that magic was reversed through Yuuki's trick, and it had changed into magic with energy that was the exact same in property and quantity. Because of this, the requirements to activate Chrono Saltation had been met. Adding a time freeze to a time freeze would not change its effect. However, multiplying them would bring about a dramatic change. Through being hit by multiple currents of time, and through the repelling of space that tries to remain fixed, the target would be buried somewhere beyond time. To the end of space-time, in the far future, in a place where the end of time and space meet. If he couldn't defeat him, then he could deal with him on a later date. That was the conclusion that Yuuki had landed on. Rimuru, the one who could match him, or even possibly outmatch him, this ultra-rank being, it was the height of stupidity to fight him head-on. He should send him to the future and then destroy the world, that was his answer. At the very end, this boring and easy game of destroying the world had suddenly had a difficulty spike. But there was only happiness left, now that he had cleared it. Yuuki was satisfied, and the smile he showed came from the bottom of his heart. The time freeze was disabled at the same time that Rimuru disappeared. Without waiting for a second, the remaining people began to move at once. Most of them did not accurately understand what had just happened before their eyes. But, the fact that Rimuru had disappeared was one thing that they all understood very clearly. Report this ad. Now, I have had my biggest obstacle take a little trip into the future. I guess you could say that this is checkmate then. Yuuki announced with a faint smile. Hearing this, Milim sat down on the ground and broke into tears. Rimuru has disappeared. As Milim murmured through her grief, Ramiris became angry. While she still wasn't aware of it, her appearance had suddenly begun to change to that of an adult. Rimuru will surely be fine. Let's defeat this guy so we can quickly call Rimuru back to us. Ramiris shouted. Strength returned to Milim's eyes when she heard this. Yes, you are exactly right. Let's do this, Ramiris. Yes. They both decided. Milim stood up again with renewed strength. Even Gaia, who was on her shoulder, was glaring at Yuuki. And next to Milim was Ramiris, who had now grown into a beautiful woman. Her hair, which had changed to the colors of the rainbow, spread out as she began to focus her concentration on activating the primitive magic which could change the laws of this world. And then, even the others. I guess we have no choice but to do it. He seems like an unbelievable monster, but if this is going to be our end, then it should at least be fun to give everything that I've got. Fufu. It's been a long time, hasn't it, Guy? I won't leave you until the end, you know. Good grief. I had wanted to see how the world had changed since I had the chance to come back from the dead. Well, I guess it can't be helped since things turned out like this. Velgrind, if we do survive, will you show me around the world? Rudra, you fool. Instead of the world, I shall look for your reincarnated self. Also, I think you should understand that you were not brought back to life. Kyu-fyu-fyu-fyu-fu. It is unfathomable that Lord Rimuru has been defeated. But it looks like we might have to hold the fort while he is away. Yes, Master may have some intentions of his own, but I doubt that we are not allowed to defeat that thing. Each of them said what they were thinking and united as one to oppose Yuuki. And all at once, with all of their bodies and souls, they each targeted Yuuki with their single most deadly attack. All of it was according to Yuuki's plan. Now Yuuki was able to use every last ability through the origin skill, Information King, Akashic Records. In other words, this meant that it was possible for him to use Gluttonous King Beelzebub to devour all of the energy. With enough energy needed to bring about the coming destruction of the world now in front of him, Yuuki smiled darkly. Proofreader, user unfriendly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 248, Rimuru vs Yuuki, Part 3. Rimuru vs Yuuki, Part 3. I had to now consider that it was impossible to ever understand this idiot. He wanted to destroy the world because he had an unhappy childhood or something. It was incomprehensible. Yuuki was not the only one who had met misfortune as a child. Not everyone was happy, many people had to overcome their misfortune and grow into great people. My life was probably on the more happier side, so I'm not sure I could answer if asked whether I truly understood the feelings of unfortunate people. However, I can determine that it is clearly wrong to involve other people just because you are unhappy. People are not equal. With the systems set in place in the world, we can try within limits to treat each other fairly, but we also cannot deny the difference in abilities that people are born with. Thinking about it like that, it becomes apparent that a world where everyone can live with equality, peace, and happiness could only exist within a fantasy. And so, if you said that this world was incomplete, well, that would be true. Even Velda, who had tried to create a completely monitored society, he had been no more than a fool who could not understand what Feldinava's ideal was. But even more than that, Yuki's idea that it would be better to destroy everything and bring an end to it all was incredibly naive and juvenile. He would take no responsibility for himself. He was reckless and would acknowledge no opinions other than his own. In the end, Yuki was a fool who I would never be able to understand. The world was cruel, but it offered you everything. That was the world that Veldinava had created. Alone in that space of nothingness, he had endured his solitude. And so he had then given birth to this world in order to distract himself from his boredom. And in this world, was born life. Beings who could act freely and make their will known, just as Veldinava had intended. After many years, humans were born as the receptacle of the soul, with free will and high intelligence. Veldinava was overjoyed. He had been bored in the world of nothingness. Watching the activities of the life forms was pleasurable enough, but the activities of these creatures called humans were emotionally moving to him. However, there was a problem. These humans who had attained knowledge, they began to stimulate each other and eventually act in ways that he hadn't anticipated. If he left them alone, they would immediately begin to war and begin to walk down the path of destruction. He had created several different worlds, and yet all of them showed the same tendencies in the end. The reason for this was emotion. It was something that he had given as a means to stimulate people and to help them grow even more, but emotions that became too extreme had a tendency of wanting to eradicate the opinions of others. Different kinds of justice were born through different ways of thinking. That is what Veldinava thought. He decided that this phenomenon was a necessary evil, and so he accepted the way the world was as a testing ground for the soul. The warring would likely stop if humans were monitored completely. However, their emotions would no longer be stimulated, and the world would turn into a dystopia that might be equal, but lacked free will. And that was not the kind of world that Veldinava wanted. He experimented several times after that, trying to push humans into growing in the way that he wanted. Several parallel worlds existed with small details changed in each, allowing them to evolve in different ways. Within this system, the humans with especially matured souls were selected to govern the souls with shorter lifespans. And so angels and demons were born. The system had been constructed so that the souls of all the dimensions would circulate. The Watchers were limited to how much they could intervene, and commanded to prevent the basis of the world from falling apart. These were Guy, Ramiris, Dino, and others like them. Because there was very little mana in the world that I was originally in, I never witnessed anything spiritual, but perhaps there were also guardians there. Well, none of that means anything now. In any case, the construction of the system is complete. The slaying of the giants who appeared irregularly is finished, and the world is now stable. Just when everything was starting to move well, the wheel of destiny began to turn. Veldinava meets Lucia and falls in love. And the two loved each other, and Milim was born. When this happened, Veldinava had lost all of his power, and I can speculate that this had to do with the binding force of the world. This reaction we call a force, the constructed system. It had decided that Lucia's existence was one of evil. According to the system, God's love must be shared equally. And so Veldinava's love for a specific individual must have caused an error. Ultimately, the price that had to be paid to fix the tear in the system was the lives of Veldinava and Lucia. Velda's idea to convict the system that had destroyed its own creator was not impossible to understand. However, it was still a self-serving desire and went against the will of Veldinava. In the end, Veldinava had loved this world, and he wanted Milim, who was his daughter, to live. The fact that he had sacrificed himself for the system was proof of this. Even if he had lost all of his abilities, it was still impossible for someone who was a god to be killed by a human. But Velda had not understood this. And that is why he cooperated with Yuuki and tried to destroy the world. It really was a foolish thing. I opened my eyes slightly. The final fight with Yuuki had started, and... Are you awake now? Ah, Seal was talking to me. But where were we? And what happened to Feldera? This is a world at the end. Or you might also call it the end of space-time. Feldera has been isolated in an imaginary space. So he is completely safe and there is no need to worry. I see, so Feldera was safe. That's good, huh? This is just a vast world with nothing, but, did she say, end of space-time? Indeed, time does not flow and is suspended here. And I cannot detect the spreading of space either. Yes. The flow of time has stopped in this world. And the spread of space has also ended, and has become nothingness according to the laws of entropy. Has it? You talk about it as if you've observed it happening? Indeed. We have been thrown into the far end of space-time through Yuuki's attack. The star has exceeded its lifespan, but the world has not been destroyed yet. Judging by this, Yuuki must have not been able to destroy the world itself. I speculate that after destroying all the stars as a space-time continuum, his lifespan had ended. However, I cannot determine if his wish had been fulfilled through this. After that, I floated off into space, and witnessed the ending of the universe. I couldn't quite understand what exactly Seal was saying. Did she witness the end of the universe? What was that supposed to mean? I mean, there was no way you could stay alive in such a situation. There were much more believable lies to tell, but then I remembered, Seal did not tell lies. Sometimes, I was fooled by her, but it wasn't so much that she lied, but that I had misunderstood her, or she made me, that's all. In that case, then we were really in a world at the end? Yes, that is right. Well then, what will you do now? What will I do? As so much time has passed, there is an enormous amount of energy from turn null that has been stored. Veldanava seems to have lost turn null when creating the world, but you still have imaginary space, so there should not be a problem. As imaginary space is infinite, it has not become full, but it has been loaded with enough energy to rebuild worlds tens of thousands of times over. If I may add, this means that you can replicate every person you were ever involved with, including their memories. You can create a world that is as close as you can possibly get to the world you left. What will you do? Wah. I was shocked by the question. Yes. If this really was the end of space-time, then that meant that Benimaru, Shana, Tempest, and their friends, Diablo and the demons, Guy and Ramaris and Milim, all of those that I've loved were nowhere within this world. I finally understood that. In other words, I had lost against Yuuki. Damn it. Shit, this means that I completely lost to Yuuki. No, that is wrong. Yuuki was unable to destroy you. But, I was unable to protect those I loved. Then there was no point. There was no point if I was the only one who survived. And even if their memory and DNA could be recreated to be exactly the same, would that still really be them? Would I be able to interact with them in the same way when I had created them with my own hands? It was nonsense, damn it. Such a thing would just be fake. We can make excuses, but I still lost to Yuuki. Logically, Seal was thinking that I should create a new world without the heretic that was Yuuki. Indeed, that was probably the right answer. You could say that there was nothing wrong with it. However, that was not enough to satiate me. How could I resurrect my dead friends in such a way just to heal my own loneliness? I would rather die than do such a thing. I knew that I was being obstinate. But that was also why I could not allow myself to just create a world that was convenient for me. In such a world, the existence that was me was likely to rot away and die. It was better to choose a proud loneliness than to hold on to the past just to comfort yourself. I expected that you would answer in this way. I had shouted out with rage, but Seal answered as if she were pleased. And then she continued. Also, you have not been defeated by Yuuki. You just need to go and beat him right now. Seal offered as if it were nothing. Go and beat him now? Return to the past that was long gone. Was such a thing possible? Chloe had Time Leap which could read memories from the future, but that was really just an ability that allowed you to return to your past self. And it could not be activated where time had been stopped. Yuuki had carefully planned to block such escape routes when he stopped time. No, there should be no problem. Mai's newly acquired teleport was nothing more than a prototype for a different ability. This ability was not an ability that allowed you to return to a place you had been, but was an ability that allowed you to travel through space-time and arrive at the desired point. As you can control time and space, going back into time should be an easy thing for you. I was stunned. No wonder Seal had acted so normally in spite of my rage. From the beginning, she had already known what I had wanted. Well then, let's get going and quickly dispose of that idiot. You know it, don't you? That I hate to lose. As you wish, my lord. Seal answered my order. In the same easy way as always. This was business as usual. But I had only just awakened. Seal had lived through countless millennia as she waited for me to wake up. There was an indisguisable joy in the voice that answered my command. In order to answer to her expectations, I had to choose the world that felt right for me. Defeat was not an option. Well then, it's about time I got this over with. At the same time that I thought this, I time warped back into the past. I immediately sensed that I was in a different place. At the same time, I could also sense that a bundle of energy that was big enough to destroy the world was headed straight towards me. But instead of panicking, I swallow the whole blast. It's surprisingly tasty. It seems that it allowed me to recover what energy that had depleted with the time warp. Who are you? The shocked cry had come from Yuuki, who stood behind me. Well, I had planned to return to the same point that I had disappeared in, but it seems that some time had elapsed. Oh well, it was still near perfect timing that couldn't even be called a slight deviation in the grand scheme of things. And it was my first time too. After all, from what I could observe, not a single person here had any injuries. Is that you, Rimuru? A beautiful woman with rainbow-colored hair asked me hesitantly. Who wants to know? I couldn't help but say. However, judging by her slightly light-headed air, I realized that this person was probably Ramiris. Are you Ramiris? So you've grown. Oh. Stupid idiot. We were so worried about you. That's right. Hiding just so you can scare us like this, what a rotten personality. Your presence had completely vanished from this world, and we all believed that you had been blown away into the future. You just casually nullified our greatest weapons. Also, what's with this look? You seem to have grown since a moment ago. While it seemed that not much time had elapsed, they had still been incredibly worried about my disappearance. Also, apparently the energy that I had just eaten was something that Guy and others had used all their power to unleash onto Yuuki. On one hand, I felt a little bad for them, but it was also true that something so weak would have probably just made Yuuki stronger instead. It was not a big deal. But more importantly, what about my appearance? I thought as I looked down at myself. Then I realized that I had grown into an adult. I had no breasts or manhood either, so if I was asked if this growth had any meaning, well, I would have to say no. I knew that Seal had been creating energy all of this time, so it was likely an effect of that. Well, who cares about such trivial matters? We have not finished fighting yet. I need to put this guy out of his misery. So with that said, give me a minute. I tell them before turning to face Yuuki. Guy didn't say anything. His sword was sheathed in his arms folded. Guy. I don't think Rimuru could lose no matter how you look at it. This is a real checkmate. Guy answered Ramiris and shrugged his shoulders. Hey, those kinds of lines are flags, but then again, there doesn't seem to be much room for a flag. Ramiris murmured. After that in a quieter voice, she muttered about going through the trouble of returning to her original form, but now there was no meaning to it. She looked sad. It might be a good thing to do something to cheer her up later. Perhaps Diablo had believed that I would return because he had a smug look on his face as if he thought it was the most normal thing. Though his expression when he looked at me was a little entranced. Would I be able to return to my original self? I was a little worried. Chloe looked like she was about to cry, but just like Guy, She had sheathed her sword and decided to watch over the fight. She must believe in me. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Feeling everyone's support at my back, I thrust out my katana in Yuuki's direction. Now, let's finish this. I played along with your childish games for long enough. Don't you think that it's time for a break? Impossible? Rimuru, you were supposed to have been completely shot off into the end of space-time. Yuuki's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted as if he did not want to admit that this was real. I understood how he felt. But he really picked the wrong person to mess with. Had he been against anyone else, he might have had a chance of winning. Oh, I was shot off all right. I fell right into your plans because my buddy was busy analyzing the primitive magic. It was quite impressive of you. But unfortunately, it was not going to be effective with me. I tell Yuuki as if it had been nothing at all. I am quite hurt that you are blaming me for falling into the trap. However, it is true that I had an interest in primitive magic. It makes me angry, but I won't deny it. Seal said without much amusement but plenty of resentment. I decided to ignore her. Generally speaking, I wasn't wrong. Impossible, no. Time leap? And with a complete shape, to the desired place. From the end of space-time, you say? It can't be. No, there is no way that someone who can do such a thing exists. That would make you something like a transcendent god. Yuuki continued to mumble in this vein. You could see that he was desperate to deny the reality of the situation. And then, suddenly, he put all his force behind the sword and slashed in my direction. There was no need for me to dodge. Instead, I thrust out my left hand and grabbed the blade. The blade, which had swung down at a godlike speed, was now stuck between my thumb and forefinger. It was completely still. I glance at Yuuki, who was stunned, then I unleash a light kick. Being on the receiving end of it, Yuuki dropped his sword, Veldinava, and went flying backward. While he would still be alive, he was likely to have lost half of his ability to fight. This was because I had extracted a negative energy from turn null that hindered your life support, and combined it into the kick. Yuuki coughed violently before looking up at me with a dumbfounded expression. You, what the hell are you? There was shock and confusion in his face as he shouted towards me. I laugh as I hear this. Yuuki was like a humorous caricature. He was so incredibly ignorant, and all I could do was laugh. Satoru Mikami. Rimuru Tempest. Or did he perhaps think that I was Veldinava? Me? Who am I, you ask? Such a thing is obvious. My name is... A flash. A blinding degree of light suddenly gushed through the area. And then an ominous unearthly air that was the color of shadows began to pour from my body as if to swallow up the light. The current of light gently enveloped Ramaris, Milim, and my other friends, healing all of their wounds, and protecting them from the shadowy air of evil. As for any who were not protected by the light, as for Yuuki. Stop, don't come any closer. The world. I wanted to. He seemed to be struggling with all of his might, but his body was deteriorating without him being able to do anything about it. Give up. You went too far. If you do something wrong, then you have to repent, no? Repenting of your ways is the least you can do. In the imaginary space inside of me, you can think about your selfishness and immaturity. That is the extent of what I am allowing you to have. I coldly declare. Yuuki continued to struggle until the end, but it was all in vain. He had transferred all of his abilities into the Veldinava sword, and so there was almost nothing he could do at this point. No, don't lock me up. Like this, not like this. Yuuki, is this because I was unable to lead you until the end after all? Really, boy. I wonder if you will ever stop being such a hassle. Master. So it was. You are here too, Master. Yes. I will repent with you here. You will not be alone. I understand. But, where will? With those last words, Yuuki's conscience vanished completely. I had cast him into the imaginary space. Escape would be impossible until I died. Well, even after I died, he would never be free again. In the first place, I wasn't even sure if I had a lifespan anymore. Regardless, the person who was talking with Yuuki at the end. If it was true, then this may not even be a punishment for Yuuki, but in fact, a kind of deliverance. I began to think as I allowed myself to indulge in such sentimentalities. And that's how the final battle ended with my victory. Proofreader, user unfriendly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 249. Final chapter, reincarnated into. A year had passed after the fight with Yuuki. A lot happened after that. No, really. So much that it's a pain to remember it all. I broadcasted that I defeated Velda to the whole world. With the help of optics magic, which uses observation magic, I projected myself into the skies of all the countries. And then, declared under my name that a universal crisis had just passed. The world was filled with joy, and slowly the unprecedented disorder came to an end. And needless to say, it was the people of Tempest who helped bring it to an end. Anyway, the world has finally regained its previous stability. A while after defeating Yuuki, I released Feldera. And then, that guy went on saying stuff like, "Quah, that was a good sleep. It seems like it's my turn at last." Even considering that he was isolated from the physical world while in the imaginary space, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he wasn't reading the atmosphere at all. And the price for that was quite high. And so him being punished by his elder sisters couldn't be helped. However, his elder sisters, Velzadu and Velgrind's interest soon went towards Felgaia, the new true dragon, who was riding on Milim's shoulder. Although it can be said that he was saved thanks to that, it is also true that that was also the cause behind his sisters leaving him, which he definitely deserved. Gnua, that Gaia. And so, it was my job to console Feldera, who was feeling jealous of his brother. Just between us, that was extremely bothersome. Well, when all's said and done, Feldera is still the same as ever. Our relationship of him causing problems somewhere and me doing something about it will probably continue here on after as well. I kinda felt pleasant thinking that, but it will be a secret from Feldera. I mean, obviously, right? If I were to say that out loud, I can picture him getting carried away clear as day. As our relation won't change, not now or later, I don't even need to say it out loud. Speaking of his elder sisters, one of them, Velgrind, has already set out on a journey. She probably went to search for Rudra's reincarnate. Rimuru, you do have some idea about it, right? And no. I don't know. She did ask me once out of the blue before leaving, but I ignored it splendidly. I definitely did not stutter because I was scared of what she did to Feldera. It's just that I got a bit nervous since a very impactful, beautiful lady's face was very close to mine, yes. No, really. Well, actually, I do have someone questionable in mind. But, if I were to speak of his name here, it would feel like I yielded to Velgrind here. Besides, I would also feel bad about selling him out. I think he deserves to experience some peace now that we have regained stability after so long. However, despite my concerns for him, it seems he was quite easily found by Velgrind. My condolences. I hope he is blessed with good fortune in his path. After that, stories of a hero with a talking sword in hand, accompanied by a dragon and demon spread throughout the world, but that's none of my concern. Velzadu returned to the northern continent together with Guy. Seems like she will build up a paradise for demons there in the extreme cold where no human can interfere. Their castle was completely destroyed, but she said they will reproduce it with Guy's abilities. Moreover, it seems like he acquired the ultimate skill, Abyss God no Dens, by using the experience of the final fight. And this ability even adopted Gaia's all-creation manifestation, truly an all-purpose ability. Seems like he attempted the upgrade while trying to deal with Rudra's rampaging energy. Although he seemed a bit dissatisfied because he couldn't test the ability he went so far to acquire, as I appeared right on time. It also didn't seem like he had any intention of hiding it since he came telling me about it himself. I don't plan on fighting with you. I am the type who doesn't take fights they can't win, was what he said at that time. I don't know if that is his true feelings or not, but I don't want to fight with Guy either, so that's fine with me. At the very least, I felt like Guy as he is now could have fought Yuuki on an even field. Well, I won't lose to him as I am now, but I don't fancy getting hurt due to being prideful like that. There's no reason nor meaning in fighting him, so it's best if we can get along. Although I do say that, Guy and I fought a few times after that, but I shall talk about that at a later opportunity. The celestial world was decided to be Milim's territory. With Gaia's all-creation manifestation, we recreated the parts of the castle and the gate. The residents of Milim's previous Demon Lord territory were migrating successively. The Harpies led by Frey and the Lycanthropes. And the Celestial Demons won, who are now obeying Dino. These Celestial Demons are a new race born from incarnated angels transforming. Does that make sense? In the first place, the angels who fall into deprivation and turn into demons are called Harpy or Tengu, so this can't be taken as a rule. Even Dino is of a race called Fallen, as he fell into deprivation. Well, in reality, these celestial demons don't really have a physical body, so they can't live outside the celestial world though. As such, celestial demons, harpies and lycanthropes are Milim's main forces. We have decided on secretly having cultural inter-exchange between Tempest and them and have settled on testing new technology in the celestial world. And it was clear that the advancements of science would be clearly different from my previous world, as magicals exist here, which can be directly converted into energy. We will be doing the developments in the labyrinth like always, but the celestial world will be adopting the technology first. And then, by using the data we acquire there to complete it, we will apply it in Tempest. And naturally, the tech built with physics will be sent directly to Dworgen and the ones built with magic to Sarian. Like this, while maintaining each of the country's uniqueness, we will be providing them with the latest technology. And of course, without saying, the profit from the technology would be entering my pocket. And to speak of the Milim in question, well, she is still the same, stealthily going behind Frey's back to come play from time to time. Well, I have also been playing, taking a breather, together, so I can't really complain. Dino also comes along as Milim's guard, but there's no mistake that his aim is to slack off and have snacks. After all, after playing/slacking off for a long time, when Frey appears, both Milim and Dino's face turns pale. It really feels like the master and servant both have no urge to work, but will the celestial world really be alright? Well, something will work out as long as Frey's there. Speaking of Milim, this reminds me, there's one problem. Recently, Shin and Milim have been intensely competing against each other in my absence. From Sui's oblique report, it seems like they are having a holy battle for the place of my legal wife. What's with that? I felt my head aching even thinking about it. In the first place, I don't have my son and neither a lifespan, so it's completely unnecessary to marry. Chloe was like, "Sensei is only my sensei," and came hugging me, so that was genuinely cute. That's not fair. Rimuru is my best friend, so I should be the one. That's just you being deceived. If you are going to say that, then I am Rimuru-sama's only secretary. Chloe turns out to be quite the tactician. I need to be more careful about her than the muscle-headed Milim-sama or Shin. The three rushed in while I was having tea with Chloe. And like always, the noisy time started. This also became regular day by day, so I better come up with a solution soon. Besides, if I were to decide on a legal wife, would they come asking to be my concubines next? No, let's stop thinking about that. That would be too bothersome. Fufu, master's partner, legal wife, is Miso. I feel like I just heard something, but it's probably better to not think too deeply about that either. And like always, I decided to postpone the problem. Tempest also underwent a big transformation. After tending to the hobgoblins under Rigurdo's commands, we started reconstructing the city with Benimaru as the head. With the help of Gerudo's craftsmen, the city was reconstructed in the blink of an eye. Ramiris was easily handling the re-establishment of the satellite city. The adventurers also helped out, and the Empire's soldiers were also mobilized. What about their salary? That's not for me to worry about. Myo Urmiles-kun came clinging onto me saying Rimuru-sama in a crying voice, so I instantly cheered him up with good luck. I know you can do it. So it should be fine. It seems like he was also being consoled by Rigurdo, so it's great that they are getting along well. Thanks to his hard work, Tempest was reborn into an unprecedented, unique, super futuristic city. I restrained myself and just gave ideas, but Gerudo made it all happen. He implemented the new technology from his research ungrudgingly. There are also some which were used without testing in the celestial world. While leaving the hot spring town in the side, the city of Tempest magnificently upgraded into a futuristic city. And a multi-layered defense barrier was put up with the help of a huge-scale magic circle. The teleportation devices connected places within the city, making it easier to channel distribution. The teleportation devices were set up in every division, so traveling and transport was very smooth. The skyscrapers were set in a very functional way that the sunlight shone directly on the city's center. Surrounding that, the residents' living space spread out in harmony with the forest. Even a comfort zone was built, completing the mystical city. By using magic and science in harmony, we were able to realize an extremely high level of efficiency way ahead of time. And this probably goes without saying, but the jobs for cultural exchange with other countries were also piled up. The making of transit gates were pressing, but there was also the need to finish the railroad system to use it together. Thinking of it like that, it was decided to use the magic train as the transportation network between the cities. By implementing various different kinds of magic techniques, the train was now able to travel at a speed of 300 km per hour without impacting the surrounding or making noise. The railroad tracks were made by the Empire soldiers. The Western countries, Dwarf Kingdom, Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian and the previous Demon Lord's territory. The transportation network between Tempest and the surrounding countries was advancing at a quick pace. Between the Dwarf Kingdom and the Empire, the dwarves were also constructing a rail. By the way, the previous Demon Lord's territory after Milim's group left was still untouched. It was a rich land, abundant with resources. I am thinking of discussing with the kings of the surrounding countries on how to use it later on. All these development will probably be completed in 10 or so years as state projects. No one objected to it. When I suggested the construction under my name, all of the countries happily accepted. As expected of the great Demon Lord's name who saved the world, it sure gives off a sense of sophistication. It was also expected that all these new technology will lead to many people getting unemployed. This construction will give all these people jobs, so it's not all bad. Rather, they must have realized that this transportation network will lead to further development. From now on, people who have information will be controlling everything. I decided to restrain myself and there was no one to obstruct either. If so, then the deciding factor will be how fast the other countries take in Tempest's new technology. The economic war was so intense now that directly going to war seems stupid at best. And the factors supporting that are information and the citizens' hard work. If everyone in a country does not work hard, the country's living standards will remain low and the quality difference will keep on increasing is what Sealsan's future prediction chart says. Now that I think about it, then am I not trying to control the world with economic and technological strength? No, I am probably thinking too much. I did say that I would restrain myself, but I didn't say anything about not taking over the world. Well, it's fine as long as we all work hard and make it a better world together. I established 2 more new cities in Jura Forest. At present, they are under praiseworthy construction. One for the High Orcs, a mining city. And the other for the Lizardmen, a city on water. High-quality minerals will be produced from the mining city. And these produced goods will be transported to the central city of Tempest. The water city will be floating on the Sis Lake and I also plan on building a station for airships there. There's also one at Tempest but not many can be stationed at once. In that sense, as Sis Lake is huge, it can station a lot. Rigurdo is ruling as the Prime Minister in Tempest. For the mining city, it will be Gerudo, and Gable for the water city. The kings of each tribe will be governing their cities. I am a little worried on that part about Gable, but he is also maturing as he has made up with a bill. He isn't the Gable he used to be, so there shouldn't be a problem. And like this, a system which doesn't require me to give orders was slowly being constructed. Even other worlders, who are being discovered at various points of the world, are now being protected safely. The ones who decide on living in this world will be sent to a particular academy in Ingratia Kingdom and will gain general knowledge about this world and learn fighting techniques and other things. After graduating, they can work at any important organization in any country. If they choose to return, they will be sent to MI's Otherworld Network Research Division, where they will help her research. Well, actually, I could send them back to their world by myself. However, it somewhat felt wrong to be sending every one of them to their home countries one by one, doing the philanthropic work. Besides, now that I have confirmed that there are several different worlds, I can't lump them all together as otherworlders. There will be otherworlders who are not from the world I am from. I will provide them with information. And so, they will have to work hard themselves to develop a teleportation magic to cross dimensions, a dimension navigation method. For that, they will have a strong driving force and a strong will. Although, I am considering secretly sending them off if they fail even after trying for a few years. But I have a feeling that they can probably do it, so there will not be a need for that. Their hard work will bear fruit and the dimension navigation method will be developed. And then, a brand new story will start with interdimensional exchange. Ramaris was upset. After all the trouble I went through to do some glorious work, now I will have to be a child for a few thousand years again. She came complaining to me. My honest thought on that is, no point complaining to me about it. Even Trainee-san and the others were sad because they couldn't see Ramaris' true form. But, really, just for a few years after waiting a few thousand? It's weird that she can only be in that form for such a short period of time. It seems she had awakened forcibly this time, so she will have to start anew again. Well, it's fine, isn't it? Childs can play whenever they want and you won't be given unpleasant work like Milim, you know. Well, that is true. My work will be my beloved research and that is the best, but... right? In the first place, there isn't anything you would have wanted to do after becoming an adult, right? Now that you mention it. And so, after such a conversation, she went back to her normal cheerful attitude. It seems like she just wanted to show her adult form to me, and so Ramaris was easy to calm down. And now, about the labyrinth, well, the difficulty level had gone too far up. No matter how I think of it, no human can ever conquer it. Even with cutting-edge battle weapons or magic tools, it will probably be difficult for them. So much that even the lower levels were now a place to test the newest weapons. And as such, I made it so that they can get the passport to the Elves' City if they cross the 50th floor. After all, if I don't do that, the high-quality relaxing area will go to waste. Well, the royalties of each country, and we could use the VIP institution, but just that feels too lonely. Putting that aside, the labyrinth force, which has Ramaris and Zijin as its head, just kept getting stronger and stronger. And so, it was quite a busy year. Even thinking back on it, it was a very rich time. But, now that everything has settled down a bit, I am thinking of taking care of one of my regrets. Skyscrapers stood in a line. The surrounding was filled with hustle and bustle, shrieks, and angry roars. A patrol car's siren could be heard afar. It was a scenery so nostalgic it made me feel a bit dizzy. Senpai, senpai. Please hold it together, senpai. A youngster who was crying with a nice guy in his arms and a young woman looking at them in grief. It was Tamura and Sawatari-san. These guys, they really haven't changed, huh? Well, I guess that is pretty obvious. I walked up to Tamura and pat his shoulder. Move aside, Tamura. Dash. Who are you? How do you know my name? Now. Don't sweat the details. He turned around to complain but lost his words seeing my beautiful face. That's about it. You will make Sawatari-san mad, you know, is what I thought of saying but decided not to instead. I pushed Tamura aside and held the jewel I brought out over the nice guy's dead body. The dead body and jewel seems to have fused properly, so all that's left is to send it to my multiple parallel existence. Ah, I almost forgot. Human bodies feel pain, so I should properly heal it. Thinking that, I brought out a healing potion and poured it onto the dead body. Seeing the wounds heal in the blink of an eye, I was satisfied knowing that they work in this world, as well. If I hadn't healed it properly, I would have had to restore it after taking it in, and that's a pain. It's a relief the healing potions work. With this, the preparations are complete. I concentrated my consciousness, and used multiple parallel existence on the jewel. It is a success. It seems like skills can also be activated here without any problem. That's a relief. It seems like I succeeded in diving some of my consciousness to the nice guy, or in other words, my other world's body. Now then, before I Mikami Satoru, wake up, I should get going. What exactly did you? Oh, Tamura. From now on, properly respect your senpai and don't think of showing off, alright? Also, I will do something about the PC myself, so cancel that request. Giving a smile to Tamura's confused and shocked expression, I left the place. There's no need to explain much. After all, I, Mikami Satoru, will probably explain the rest. I woke up on a hospital bed, in this nostalgic world. In my accustomed 37-year-old body. After a bit of checking, I also confirmed my son was also in good health. That's good. I thought from the bottom of my heart. Although, I was a bit worried if it worked or not. You say that I have never really used it, so it's probably fine. I will kill you, ya bastard. It's only good manner to have it working anytime. Preparations are important. Well, leaving that aside. The things until now weren't a dream, right? Spare me the pain of seeing all that as a dream for getting stabbed, alright? If all that was just a simple afternoon dream, I can't even laugh. However, seeing how peaceful it is, I might have actually believed it was a dream. Ah, senpai. You are awake. Tamura, Is this the hospital? Yes. The police had come just a while ago, but it seems like they returned after the doctor told them you should rest a bit. Police? Why? Please calm down. Senpai, do you remember almost being stabbed by a random attacker? The police had come to get some info on that attacker. Ah, I see. Wait, did I not get stabbed? Was it actually a dream? If I wasn't stabbed and that was all a afternoon dream after I collapsed, then... Well, actually, you might not believe this, but, a mysterious woman, that too not of a model or celebrity level, an extremely beautiful woman, she brought you back to life. You might laugh saying I don't know what I am talking about, but it is the truth. As proof, please look at that. Tamura answered my doubts. And I looked at the wall, where my suit was hanged. There was a small tear in the back and it was covered in red blood. Seems like there's no mistaking that that is my blood. That means, that really wasn't a dream and I, Rimuru, played a prank on myself. That bastard, well, even though I say that, it is me, but, to do that even against myself. Like I thought, you won't believe me, will you? No, I believe you, Tamura. Also, it seems like the police visited for no reason. After all. No, nothing. Now that would be something he wouldn't believe even if I were to tell him. The attacker who killed me, I might have forgiven him, but Diablo sure wouldn't. By now, the attacker is probably experiencing unlimited torture by Diablo and regretting being born. There's no way he would believe that, so I tried to dodge the topic. By the way, Tamura, if I were to tell you that I went to another world after dying, would you believe me? To my whisper, Tamura's expression looked bewildered for a moment. He probably thought what in the world I was talking about. That would be the normal reaction, or so I thought, but I would believe you, senpai. I just witnessed something very weird, and besides, that woman felt strangely like you, after all. And now when I think about it, I feel like that person might have been you, senpai. I even thought of something as absurd as that, after all. I see. Then it's fine if I told you. You wanna listen? I asked with a smile, and Tamura also answered back with a smile. Please. I see. Well then, I shall tell you all about it. About the time I was reincarnated as a slime. The end. Equals 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 1. Tenmazoku. Pronounced Enjuru or angel, compared to Tenshi, which is the Japanese word for angels. Since they are humans reincarnated as angels, and not pure angels, think of it as angels that are regarded as monsters now. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.